Oh shit!
All right, we're live. Early.
50 seconds early.
We
We
live.
wanted to come early because Bobby's just used to
I
coming.
mean, that's my entire life.
He's been begging for it. Just wants to feel in place.
Begging for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what's
All
up,
right,
boys?
Uncle Fester. Okay, so we're going to talk about fucking crazy box designs. Now, what I
We don't know
will
nothing
say,
about.
what I will say before Drew gets all negative, is that
Mhm.
I have seen some boxes that I was like, how the fuck is this going to work? And been like, wow, that's working really well,
No, I
you
have
know?
to for sure.
And then and I've also done some stuff with some of the box designs from PWK when I was working with Audio Dynamics a bunch. There was some that I had like serious doubt and concern, so much that I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and also have a regular old ported box on deck to compare this to, because no matter how good it sounds, I want to know what it's going to do compared to a regular box.
Yep.
And most of the time, I was really happy with what Pete designed. There was a couple times where I'd like call them back up and I'd be like, "Hey, it was doing all right," or "Wasn't that great?" Because this regular ported box with the sub in it was quite a bit better. And he'd go, "Really?" And he'd ask me a series of questions. Then he'd be like, "If you don't mind building another one, this should be what you want." And there was a couple times where it just was unreasonable, and I just sent the customer on their way with the regular ported box. And then but there was one particular time that on the redo, it was really good. So there's definitely some real science going on, especially with Pete. What I love about Pete is that he really builds things and really tests them, and his testing processes are really amazing. Um, but
So,
there's a
Bob,
lot of
before you
guys.
keep going,
Uh-huh.
a lot of us out there that aren't enclosure builders or builders don't even know who Pete is. So, when you get into PWK a little bit, if you know,
Okay, so on
because I don't
YouTube,
even know really anything about
yeah,
him. To be honest,
YouTube,
either.
he's Hexabase, and also Instagram, Hexabase. Brilliant
Okay.
dude. He's an engineer that works at Audio Dynamics, and he's a super smart dude. There's lots of really fun stuff to learn there. If
Yeah,
you
these
go to
days he does a whole
his
bunch of like small speaker.
I saw a
3D
couple of
prints
his 3D printed
enclosures.
stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
Dude's
really
super
cool little
smart.
T lines, really cool stuff for like his computer and things of that nature. But there's also some really awesome stuff. Now, like anybody that is building crazy different stuff, not everything is a home run. So like every once in a while, somebody like, "Oh, I got a design from Pete and it didn't work very good." And it's like, well, did you communicate with him? Did you work it out? Did you give him some feedback? Did you give him an opportunity to work that out better with you, or help you figure out what else you had done wrong? And they're, what do you mean? It should have just worked. I'm like, I don't know, man. Look,
Yeah, it's not always how it works, man.
maybe you had your subsonic filter cranked up to 57 hertz, so maybe that's why you didn't have any low bass. I don't know. You seem dumb. So, there's there's so many times that but what I always come back to is design guys, especially the ones that are designing really wild shit that don't build anything. And there's guys who be like, I build stuff. Be like, no, you don't. You fucking don't build shit. And and it's a tough one, because it's really hard to trust when they're like, oh yeah, I used the software and it did this, and but there are a few guys that I know that design boxes that build shit. Pete and Drew and Hunter and Jose and and if you ever communicated with Drew or any of those guys and said, hey man, this isn't doing what we expected, they'd help you go over everything on your end, and then they'd get the feedback of what it sounds like and why, and double check what might have caused this. And they go, oh shit, hey, you know what, I'm looking at it again, and
I messed this up. Oh man.
Yeah, let me get you designer, and hey, let's all learn from this, and then
sure.
tell you why it wasn't right. Now, I mean, I even had one where I built this all acrylic box, for a single
Oh, man.
12-inch sub
Don't even say it. Oh, that's
for a
just-
boat. No, it was designed by Pete, and John Nolte is looking at the box and he's like, Bobby, this isn't going to work. I think you got something mixed up in his design, or he did. And he's like, let me look. And I had the printout, and John's looking at it and he's like, dude, I think he messed up. And I'm like, I don't know, John.
Please don't say that.
I'm like, dude, I'm like, and he's telling him this port should be bigger than that port, not the other way around. And he's like, describing what's supposed to, and I'm like, he told me it was going to be pretty weird because it's going in this chamber of this boat. And that's why he did it this way. And to don't test it like in the back of a pickup truck, to test it in the boat before and I'm like, and he's like, you should have built a wood one first. I'm like, I've been hitting home runs with this thing, with these boxes that he designed. So I wanted to hurry up and get it done. I got a giant boat in my install bay. This thing needs to get the fuck out of here. And, and John helps me. We slide the box into the boat and we hook it up. Everything else about the install is totally done. And we light that thing off, and it was outstanding. And John's like, it can't be wrong. That's gotta be. He's like, man, I don't even understand what's going on in that thing. I gotta figure out. I want to talk to him. John was like,
I want to know what.
Wow, it was so good. It was my buddy Dan's boat, and I trained jujitsu with him. And Dan would have kicked my ass. It would sound like shit. No, I'm just kidding. He wouldn't have done that. He would have been a gentleman. But
yeah, Pete does some crazy stuff.
He has some wild ass boxes, like those base reflex sixth orders. I built one. It was pretty well known years ago, a double 12 one for my own car. And I have never heard an enclosure produce like double bass from like a metal song, like those base reflex sixth orders that Pete designs. Nothing comes even close. It's
Speaking
outstanding.
So I had to go pick up Nick's car from Biloxi, whatever. I stopped by the local bass show, and the dude asked me what my thoughts were on his port area in his base reflex six order, and I said, "Man, I'll be honest. If I told you something, I'd be guessing because I don't do anything with those."
It's
like,
it's wild.
What do you
it's
think?
like,
I'm like, no. So I'm not
like, I
he's
don't.
all with it, and I'm like,
what is a base reflex sixth order, Bobby?
So you want to tell?
Yeah. So I'm gonna find a picture too. So it's basically, so you can see the sub. So it's like a normal ported box. You can see the sub, and then inside the enclosure, there's like the main port exiting the enclosure. Then inside the enclosure, there's another port inside the enclosure, separating the enclosure into two separate chambers. And then so two ports, two tunings, and then the woofer itself on the outside.
It's a series sixth order, but the sub is on the outside of the enclosure. Now, Pete calls that the primary chamber that the motor or that the woofer is in, the control chamber. He refers to it as the control chamber. And I find that really interesting. It says a lot.
So
and usually it's very small. You'll have like a single 12, and that front chamber will be like 0.7, 0.8, barely fit the motor in there. And then it'll have a relatively long, very small port that tunes super low, considering, if you only have 0.7 cubic feet of air and you got a 28-inch long port snaking around in there that's only, 13 or 16 inches of port area. And this is kind of guesstimating based on my experience years ago.
Does the back of this chamber have two port openings, basically? One going to one port, one going to the other?
No. You're misunderstanding. So there's a ported box, and then it's porting into another chamber, and that port's
okay. But how can you see the sub? How is the sub on the outside of the box?
Like that.
Except inside of that, like that
is that.
There you go. Now,
okay.
I don't think that one's right.
No, this is the first thing that popped up.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea of what it is.
Okay.
I got you.
Based on my experience, that primary port on the inside would have been much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But who knows? It could be.
See if I find anything.
Yeah, I took apart this little Bose speaker that it's from like the 80s. It's part of this surround sound system. But in this little Bose subwoofer part, there was only like a little 4-inch sub, which is crazy how much bass it produced. But it was some sort of sixth order where the sub was inside a chamber that was ported out
It's a
to like the
parallel
back
sixth
of the
order.
box. Yeah, and then it fired into another chamber that was like snaked around it that ported out the other side.
That'd be a parallel sixth order, the
Mm-hmm.
Bose original. That one is a lot more like what I'm used to. The picture that Drew is sharing there. I'm gonna scroll back. It's gonna take a minute because it's been a couple of years since this, and I'll find the image.
So
Excuse me,
that
of
box
the
doesn't
ones I
look
did.
like it's too complicated. So why don't we see more of that used in car audio? Do you guys know? Is
They're
it a
probably-
huge box?
I mean, I've never tried to design one. I'd assume it'd be similar to a Series 6, but like I said, I'm not sure. I've never messed with it. People are not very keen to try. A lot of people aren't keen to waste money. So if they're going to try something, they kind of want to be sure it's going to work.
All right, that makes sense. But that looks, like I said, not very complicated to build.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
Probably
it's,
complicated to get right. But if you have
Yeah.
somebody who knows how to design them, they look buildable, and if they work really well,
I mean, they're no different than like a regular 6-order. I wouldn't think it. They just get large. Same thing with any 6-order. They just get large, and then
right.
Yeah, it's a bit bigger. So
Yeah.
you gain some efficiency at lower frequency, and my favorite attribute to those is response. They're super responsive. Like I've said, nothing. I've never heard any box produce double bass. Even a big badass sealed box won't do low frequency double bass like one of these
I
ones
need
will.
to at some point,
Well-
maybe this coming year, if I can find some time, I would love to build a couple of those to see how they. Because the first thing I think of is there's got to be a ton of group delay for the rear wave. There's just there has to be. Physics says there
So
has to be.
That box that you just shown us, what would the tuning be like on something like that? What's the internal port, and what's that outer port?
It's
What
that
would you think
internal
it
is
is?
usually pretty low. A lot of times it's real similar. In my experience, it's real similar to a Series 6 order like we would put in one of our wall builds. You would be,
Okay.
Yeah,
in the mid to high 20s here, and
I
then
mean, this even looks like a lot of port area for.
Yeah, I mean the
that
port on
one
the
there
left side
even
doesn't
looks
look big enough.
not like what. I'm
Yeah.
digging, man. It's gonna be a minute.
So the person we're talking about is Peter Walter Kalinsky, PWK. Well, he doesn't go by PWK anymore. He goes by Hexibase on YouTube and Instagram, and he works at Audio Dynamics. You can order designs from him, I think, but I think they start at like $200 or something like that. Like that's like the starting price is $200 or $250, something like that. Like they're high, but he'd
What
be
is he
busy.
trying to say? Can y'all explain why boxes are tuned so?
Yeah, I was waiting for him to finish the thought before I brought it.
If you want to rephrase your
Elaborate.
question, Jackson, then we could try to get you an answer.
Yeah, PWK has been doing it. I initially found him from Team Toxic Bass. It's a video from like 15 years. I'm gonna go find it. 15 years ago of two triple X 15s in like some little car, and he is. This is 15 years ago doing hair tricks.
Yeah, I've stumbled across a few of his videos just scrolling through YouTube, and he's got some interesting. Some ones that are a little. I mean, you got to really be kind of technically into car audio to really
Like this
soak it all in.
is
But
super
there's
easy
a
to
couple
find.
really cool ones.
I knew exactly where it would be.
Team Toxic Bass.
Can y'all hear it?
No.
I
No.
want to make it so you can hear it. I don't know. You get the idea.
Well, is it muted on the screen itself? Okay. Anyways.
I remember watching this, just losing my mind.
How long ago was this?
15 years ago. Yeah, I was right.
And what okay, so it is a wall.
Yeah. And this is still
Nice.
on his YouTube, Hexibase.
Good old Triple X. What are you looking
Yeah,
over
no,
there, Bobby? Are you sort of
no,
researching
he
stuff?
does.
I am
He does some
searching.
super.
I'm scrolling back years on my Instagram to
Try to
screenshot
find
an
the.
image of the box that I had done for my Subaru that I fucking loved it. I mean, I loved that box. I mean, it was loud.
Look
So
how
actually,
compact
here's a
that is.
crazy one that Pete designed. I'll save that one as well. I'll send it in just a moment. Let me find the other one.
So
I
this is the
almost want to
stuff.
buy a massive 3D printer just to make shit like that.
So this is the stuff he's been doing, like stuff like this. Like this was laser, stack fab laser.
And that's a tapped horn.
Yep.
And so the display that we had at the shop for a while, the audio dynamics display, had a really nice tapped horn on it, and that thing rocked the shop. It was just a single 12-inch sub with like 400 watts on it, and it fucking sounded great, and it was loud. We'd be rocking out in there. Yeah.
All right, let's see. Jackson's elaborated.
So the FS is just where the sub will resonate most easily in a free air environment, assuming the parameters are correct and assuming they're post break-in. Both of those are very large assumptions. So you could tune it at FS, but you would just have but your FS would technically shifts when you put it in the enclosure, but you would just have a larger spike at tuning, and then say in a regular port enclosure, you get maybe a half octave below that at best of usable response. So I mean, you get to the mid to low 40 hertz, and there's nothing left after that. There's nothing playing beyond that.
I see.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excuse me.
Now,
let's do like an eighth order.
Oh, here's another fun one.
Jose! What's up, buddy? We should have Jose on here talking about crazy ass enclosures because he does build some weird ass shit.
He does. He builds some wild shit, and it fucking
Same with John.
Works really well. Okay, so here I'm almost there. Where the fuck is that image? There we go.
All right, 1994. Here we come.
It's only a few years ago. I'm sending it into our group.
You get your jumpsuit on.
Okay, here we go. All right. So I just sent you guys 4 images. So what's pretty crazy about like what Pete does, Pete's like, what environment is this going in? And like one of the boxes, it's a single 8, and it's a 6th order bass reflex, like we've been talking about. And it was going in a shop. And he's like, and Pete's like, oh, it's going in a shop? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, how high is the ceiling? What is the floor plan of this place? So I'm like drawing out a thing in CAD and telling him the area. He's like, how high off the floor will this be? Will this be on the floor? I'm like, oh no, it'll be up high on top of a shelf. He's like, oh, that changes everything. I'm like,
yeah,
really? How the fuck could it? So that is actually an 8th order. So if you study it a bit, you're looking at a parallel 6th order with a chamber there that actually went in, the green monster before it was the green monster, and had 215s in it that did really, really well on like 2,000 watts. You went beyond that, and the subs got sad. Is
there a big port in the front face?
Yeah, there'd be a big port in the front, that area that went in through the back window.
Okay.
And
this was a blow through.
Yeah, but like a back window delete blow through in the camper shell. It was something we were playing with. Me and Pete talked about it a little bit. I kind of had to really talk him into it a little bit. He didn't want to do it, and I was like, I want to build something crazy looking that's like does wild shit and goes super low, and and it was really awesome until you started putting a lot of power on it, and then the subs got real sad. So, but otherwise, it was pretty fucking impressive. So
it looks pretty cool. It looks big.
Yeah. It's pretty big. It's 4 feet wide and like 46 inches tall, and then it was only 18 inches deep total or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay.
And then that's the one
that's,
that was in my own, my Subaru. And that thing was fucking outstanding. It was really, really impressive. It blew everybody's mind. So it was
and
lots of fun.
that's a base reflex
Sixth
sixth
order.
order?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, that's pretty.
So go back to the other box real quick. No. The base. Yeah. So
Same box.
Talk to me a little bit about it, Bobby. Like the
So
tunings and stuff.
those chambers where the motors will go, those
Okay.
are what Pete described as the control chamber.
Okay.
And
What's
then
that
on
tuned to?
many
Like
of these
something
boxes,
super...
if you go to the next one, go to the all acrylic one, Drew. That there, if you see there, what Pete calls the control chamber is super tight on that
Oh
one.
yeah, really small.
And then
yeah.
the tuning chamber that he, calls it is much larger. So
Yeah.
and that one was built for a shop. And
well, like on that other box we were looking at, the one that was in your Subaru, what's the tunings? Like what is that front
I don't
tuning?
remember
What's
what the
that
tuning
rear?
numbers on that. That
I
shit
mean,
was like
if
6 years ago.
well, if you were just guessing, like what would that front chamber be tuned to? Is that something really low? Or is
Low,
that,
like in the 20s, like mid
okay.
to high 20s, and then the
one on
front
the
one
inside?
would be mid 40s to mid 50s, roughly.
Okay,
I mean,
gotcha.
that's like I'm pretty confident I'm accurate with those that information,
like
but
assuming
it's a hell of a range.
A Series 6, they're probably an octave apart or very close to it.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the box when you finished it, stained it, and all the good stuff.
Yeah, we put the blue stain on it and put some epoxy on it that took 2.5 weeks to cure, and then sanded it and polished it, and it was a lot.
Would you mix it a little light?
No, it was the particular epoxy that we used said it took that long. I'm like, it was like dry in like a day, but they were like, you can't sand this and polish it until like 2 weeks. It was like, oh, okay. So I put it in the car. Actually, I think that image is where the edges still are kind of fucky looking from where we had the tape on it. Like you see it a little bit there. Yeah. And then we took it back out and sanded it, shaped it, and polished it, and it was really beautiful. So anyway.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, I mean, obviously T-lines are a real thing. I feel like these base reflex sixth orders, especially if they're designed by Pete, are I feel in my experience, they're fucking proven. They work really well and they have an application. And the T-lines and stuff are obviously a real thing. Where a T-line applies, this is how I was describing it to somebody. A guy was like, man, what if he did like a T-line under the back seat of a truck? And I was like, dude, if you were like, all I have is this 400 watt amplifier and I have this little badass 8 and you built this big, long, beautiful T-line, it'd be like really like people like, I can't believe that's 1/8 with 400 watts. And you're like, yeah, well, you got a box. It's 3.5 cubic feet of air. It's fucking 60 inches long. And there's this, and you're like, okay, well, how much louder would it be if it was like a ported box with 4/8? And I'm like, well, if it was a ported box with 4/8 and you had 5,000 watts on it, it'd be a shitload louder,
Yeah.
And like it's not a fair comparison. But if you were like, I got this, little itty bitty 8 and I have this little itty bitty amp and I want to see what I can do with it.
It's all I got.
Then you can have a lot of fun with that. And that's the kind of shit I did when I was a kid because I was fucking broke. And I'd be like, I got this one shitty 12 because I blew up the other one because I'm stupid. And now I'm trying to get everything I can out of it possible. And I would, call up, fucking Kicker or Earthquake or Redline or Fosgate or, any of these companies that I used to communicate with in the past and ask them, what crazy shit could I build? Can you give me a design? And most of the time they give you fourth order bandpass designs. but yeah,
they're dealing with the same thing that that I deal with. It's you know, we want to try some cool stuff, so we do it on our own. But you don't want to try cool and different stuff with someone else's money because they may not be very appreciative of it. So a lot of this cool stuff we try, you know, isn't for the general public to see. But some of the coolest horns, I think it was a horn. Hell, I think BWK designed it. It was it was two DD Z18s in a school bus, like a proper full length school bus. My local buddy Landon O'Pry had it. Dude, that thing would just beat the block down. The entire bus would just breathe. It was pretty cool.
And how many cubic feet of
Dude,
volume?
they were massive. Like they had to be in a bus. That was the only option.
Yeah, you weren't going to put two of those 18s in a Suburban, right?
No,
Not in that box.
No chance. I mean, they had to be as long. They were like full sheets of wood long each. Like they were huge. You know, this is back when wood was cheap, so I mean, it was fine. And he still used like cheap plywood just to test it.
Right.
What kind of box was it?
Wild shit. When you see some really crazy ass designs, you're all.
I'm not exactly sure what kind. It was years ago.
I don't know. You know, I built a box for a Ground Zero 15 years ago, and I got the specs from the engineers at Ground Zero, or they said they were engineers, and I was pretty suspect of this design. I even called him back and I was like, hey, you based on these volumes and these port area on this fourth order bandpass, this looks like this should be for a 12. Oh no, it's the 15. I'm like,
okay.
All right. And it was, going to be an all acrylic box. This young lady paid a shitload of money for her all acrylic box. I wasn't going to fucking build something that sounded like shit. So I went ahead and I built it all out of MDF and I put the 15 in it and it sounded pretty good. And then I took that 15 out and I put it in a regular ported box. It was so much fucking better. And I was like, And then I kind of took it upon myself and I just kind of duplicated a design from a Kicker 15 because I didn't have any real specifications from that Ground Zero 15 that I trusted, and I didn't have appropriate software that I trusted. And I built that and I put it in there, and that was way better than the ported box. Kinda at lower bass notes, it was better, but overall, I liked it more. And so I built that out of acrylic for her Ground Zero acrylic sub. And I mean, yeah, you better
better have it right.
we're especially when I would be like, I mean, she paid a lot of money, but she paid me like $2,300 for the all acrylic box, which I was like, man, I got enough. If I did it twice, I'm not in the negative. But I built goddamn 3 boxes before I was happy with that shit.
That's why people pay what they do.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's way the fuck more now, is because
murder build. It depends on your goals, what you listen to, and how much space you have in the end.
Yeah.
Also, that's too much power for a single 12.
Okay, yeah. I've got this crazy. I know you guys have probably seen this picture before. I'll try to pull it up here because I'm having trouble with my computer. Come on, move out of the way.
Yo.
Jesus.
Where
Where are the options on here? Why is there it is? My God, one screen covering the other screen. Present. Share screen. Tab. This one. Right here. Bam.
Yes.
I've seen that picture before.
Oh yeah. That is a world famous picture.
Looks like some ovaries.
Yeah, and then I found this one.
It's got a little bit of big butt cheeks or big cleavage effect going as well.
Man, what's that tuned to?
I guess it does kind of look like somebody's butt cheeks.
Man, what's that tuned to? Like negative 40 or what?
Right, is that one of those what was it, the quasi-dimensional
that's one of the quasi bi-dimensional third wave resonators.
Third wave resonator, yes.
It plays 0 hertz, right?
So I played with some horn boxes for Tim Bernyansky, 15, 18 years ago. Can't remember what started it. What started it is I saw this guy back in like he was in one of the forums in like Term Pro, and he was an English guy, and he had cut slices of MDF with with specific angles on them to create this horn port, and he was like glopping it together with fiberglass and shit, shaping it by hand with a fucking rubber glove on. And I was like, why the fuck is he doing that? Like, why wouldn't you do the curve cut thing? Anyway, it was really funky looking, and I was more, and he, and then he was describing how awesome it sounded, and how he had gained, like over a dB with the same woofers and the same amp and all this shit, and the horn load thing, and I was like, well, I was more enthusiastic in figuring out how to create the horn without having to make a fucking mess and all this crazy fiberglass and shit. And I started doing kerf cuts in MDF. And I'd never seen anybody do that shit before. I'm sure somebody was doing it a long time ago, but I was like, well, if you cut it, maybe it'll bend, and it did. And so I was like kind of fucking around and figuring out, okay, for this far, I'm going to separate these by 1 inch, and over here 3/4, and here 1/2, and here 3/8 a little bit, and then kind of taper back out. And I'd bend this thing around, and I had drawn a line, and I did some math on how much expansion it's supposed to have. That was based on a formula that guy posted in a group, and I like printed a page, and it was in my like folder of box design shit. And so I used this guy's formula to figure out this horn, and with essentially the same size volume of box and a very similar port to what was existing, we got a pretty significant gain in for Tim, because it was horn loaded, and it peaked. It was more peaky, which is kind of a natural thing, but it gained like a lot, enough that he was like, fuck yes. And we, and then we kept playing with it more and more and more. And even to a point where I would have a design for regular ported box, and I would just put significant horn at the ends of it. I would just add this shit on, like, all right, nice taper. Sometimes I'd even just have an angled panel that made it have expansion at the front and the back, and make the box a little bit bigger to accommodate a large portion of that extra space I took up, and that would be louder. We were getting a gain. We would see it on a meter, and I didn't know how to put that in an enclosure design.
Well, you almost just more or less just flaring the ports. Were you saying back then?
Yeah, but I don't mean like a little tiny bit of flare. I mean like fucking 10 inches of taper flare, significant flare.
Gotcha. But you kept the rest of the port the same. You weren't like traditional like horns. Like when I think of a tapped horn or whatever, it starts kind of small.
Well, a tapped horn is completely different. But a horn shaped port it's all horn. It's it compresses and it opens back up. This was it had a regular linear port. Let's say that port was 18 inches long. That thing would be. I would maybe shrink it a little bit because I didn't want to make my horn sections front end, beginning and end of port. To make the box massively bigger, but I'd still have, if it was supposed to be 18, I'd go, all right, cool. That shit's like 15 or 16. And then I would put this little bullshit expansion. And this is just a fucking dude fucking around in his shop, screwing around with the box, being like, is this louder than, because I saw results otherwise, but I didn't know how to do any of the math to go with it. And shit, it worked. But
it works.
But
you didn't know why
the biggest issue is that,
or how, or
the
like
biggest
what was
issue
going on.
with wild boxes like this is they're always fucking bigger. It's a bigger mechanical amplifier. So you remember what I was talking about is like, we aren't going after efficiency. We're not. Otherwise, if we were all going after efficiency, we'd rewind back to that fucking goddamn massive T line in a single 8 with 400 watts on it. We're running 5,000 watts to 100-pound subs, and we're squeezing them motherfuckers into the smallest box we can get them into and just feeding truckloads of power and gigantic lithium banks. Efficiency is clearly not our fucking concern. I mean, obviously, once you have your massive inefficient stack of shit, then you find the little magic pieces to have as much efficiency as possible. But we abandoned efficiency a long fucking time ago, financially, space, electrical, gas mileage, effort, strength to load the subs. It's not, none of that has any efficiency involved.
Would you say the most efficient way to get the numbers and power, or like the feeling you get in a build that we build, we're doing it the right way? I mean, because could you really do it any other way and get this kind of output? So
now every once in a while
is the most efficient way to achieve this end
the most
result,
efficient
right?
way to the most efficient way to play music at a 160 is pretty incredibly inefficient.
It's
like
yeah.
I mean, you're like, all right, cool. I got 600-pound woofers. I've got 3 fucking amplifiers that are too long to fit through the back gate of my vehicle. I got a fucking energy bank that could burn for a fucking week. I mean, it's but now every once in a while, it's one of these great examples shows up to a show at the barbecue about a year and a half ago. I can't remember what this young man's name is. He's a super good kid. He showed up with his little Explorer with 2 old ass DC XL 18s in a 6th order. And it was a big fucking 6th order for 2 18s. It was as every bit of space he could have. And he had a fucking piece of shit DS18 amp that was like $90 fucking dollars. I'm not exaggerating. And it was like a DS18. It's like a 2K and it had a fucking 4-gauge input, and that thing didn't make 1,000 watts if it was struck by fucking lightning. Twice. So yeah, fucking if there was a negative and a positive lightning bolt going into that motherfucker, it'd make like 1,003 watts. And that thing just annihilated. It was the most impressive thing there. And he was like, yeah, I got I bought like $300 worth of wood. That's what I got into this build. My buddy gave me these subs. He thought they didn't work anymore. They kind of burned a little bit, and he took them out. And then somebody gave me this amp. It was like it was in water or some shit. And he had like 3 random AGMs in the back, and they're like all different sizes and shit.
The definition of a fucking budget build.
Yeah, and that's when you see efficiency. And it, every once in a while you get like a little bit inspired. I'm like, man, it'd be hella cool to never an epicenter would never help.
I knew that would trigger you.
I think they're talking about metal music and stuff for murder builds. For listening to metal stuff, I'd probably do a 4th order, or standard port enclosure,
or a bass reflex 6th order, like I was talking about at the beginning of the show. If you have room for that, and you should have Pete design that shit for you because it might be outstanding.
Yeah. It comes out of equipment.
I like 4th orders because that seal chamber main. Nice.
Whatever you just did, Drew, like you were muted and you were up.
Oh, convenient. I don't know why it does that. Weird.
But
it's that expensive mic stuff. Sensitive. They're very sensitive.
Yeah. Are we talking murder build? Are we talking about a no wall, or are we talking about a wall?
Well, he said he has rebased Slayer, so I'm not sure how.
I mean, if it's rebased, it's not metal.
It's metal.
It's still Rustical Z rebased. So
yeah.
But sounds dope, though. I need that track.
That's one thing we could talk about. You guys would know probably a decent amount about this. Is which enclosures are best for what type of response? So they say, like a sealed enclosure SQ guys use for the accurate tight response, blah, blah, blah. So if you want to go down the line of maybe some of the more popular ones and what type of responses you could typically expect to produce,
I mean, if I was going to go for, like, let's start sound quality, sealed, obviously, it's going to be number one. Second would be a fourth order bandpass, because there's only a single wave you're dealing with as far for phase alignment. Because ported, there's still two waves you're dealing with, a front and a back of this coming out of the enclosure, and then you just go down the line from there. But tend to find six orders are more boomy just because it's a pair of chambers. Fourth order is more tight sounding because seal chamber, single outlet you're dealing with, which could be said with the same could be said for a six order, but there's a pair of waves inside the enclosure that you're dealing with. And then we all know what ported boxes sound like.
So why would an
there's
SQ
also an IB setup that a lot of SQ guys will go with,
so it's an enclosure, but it's not an enclosure, but it's not.
So a sealed enclosure and an IB enclosure seem like almost opposites, and it's kind of weird that SQ guys will choose those two. Why?
Well, guys,
why is that?
Like IB sub enclosures and SQ generally that's generally their secondary sub. It's not their main. It's not like the main subwoofer in the build for the most part, from what I've seen.
It's
sub.
It's
yeah,
like
it's a subwoofer sub.
Their mid bass is so strong that it can play down to bass frequencies, like Brad Knobloch. He has 218s IB in his Jeep in the back for bass, but he has two 12-inch mid basses, also IB, in his kicks. So his mid basses can play from like 30 to 300 or 250, and then he has 6.5-inch mid ranges in his dash that play from like 250 and up. So because from what I've seen, the IB stuff peaks super low, super low, like 19, 17 hertz, very low.
I want to hear that shit,
dude. When you're like 15 feet behind his Jeep, it's still like 130 something dB. It's so, I'm like, bro, your neighbors have to hate you, just completely.
What were you gonna say, Bobby? You were gonna say something.
I don't know. So the best sounding vehicle that I've ever heard, I'm such a fucking terrible name remembering person, but the dude with the silver Mercedes at Surf.
I've asked people who he is, but I don't think I've ever got a name.
It's like Henry or Hank or something like that. But he had 10-inch mid bass drivers IB in his kicks of his beautiful Mercedes, and he had 312s in the trunk, and I think he would play it with the trunk open, but I'm not sure. He may have closed. He had it open when I approached the car. He may have closed it when I got in for the demo, and I mean, that thing sounded fucking great, and it got like pretty loud, like during his norm. And I asked him to make it louder, and he like beep a boppled and was like, "Let me do this," and I'm like, "Don't like risk play." He's like, "No, I'm not gonna hurt it. I won't do that." But then he was rocking it pretty loud for me, and he got in trouble by the judge because he was too loud, and they were judging a vehicle 2 cars over, and I was like, if you're in the vehicle and it's all closed up, and I'm in this vehicle that's 2 cars over and it's all closed up, and the sound of this car is fucking up the testing of that car, then that shit's not loud enough, and that's disappointing. But
right.
Yeah, but
I'm not exactly the SQ.
Loud.
I mean, they obviously have their own level of following. Maybe somewhere along the way, with people like me and Drew getting a little more involved in SQ, we might have some vehicles that fucking.
Bro, I'm telling you,
got some realsies output.
You need to come to the next Aggieland event at least at Mobile Toys, where Jeffrey and Chris Payton, all of them do because all of their stuff.
You got to go to a street battle, Bobby. Yeah. I mean,
what?
You got to go to a street battle in New York, and then you'll be like, that's what I know. It's what you're thinking. It's concert level sound out of a car. Yeah, it's like you're basically at a venue, and that's what it sounds like. Sounds super good, but loud as fuck.
I need that in my life. I'm planning to go to that next seminar, that SQ seminar, Drew, and I'm gonna try to make it so that I go out there and I hang out for an extra day and go to Kicker on the Tuesday. That's my plan. So
Hell yeah. Mm. Mm.
now
Say he's
I've heard
wrong.
SQ vehicles that sounded really beautiful, but they just weren't loud enough for me to uh, enjoy them the way that I enjoy music.
Yeah.
But some people,
To an
and some
extent.
people, I really believe that it hurts their ears when it's real loud. I believe some people are like,
Oh yeah,
"God,
for
it
sure.
hurts a little bit," and they're like, "That's too much for me." And I'm pretty sensitive. I'm like, I don't think they're lying to me. I think they're lying to me when they tell me that, you know, a car that's 100 feet away from them is too loud and it hurts. I'm like, you're just an asshole. You're just an asshole, and you're looking for a reason to bitch. If my car's 100 feet from you and you're like, you're giving me a headache, no, you're giving yourself a headache because you're an asshole. That's the only version of that there is. But the SQ systems that people have that aren't very loud, I'm not mad at them for it. I think it's fucking great. And if they want to give me a demo and it sounds beautiful, that's awesome. But I always find myself wishing there was a lot more. Except for that last one. I mean, I could have definitely been happy with it being louder, but it was fucking loud and it sounded super duper good. And I was like, oh man, this is so fucking good. and it was really cool. So I really appreciated him giving me that demo. Now, I will say that this is the same car and the same guy that had given me the demo where
not quiet.
that it was so fucking quiet. I was at a seminar, a Kingpin seminar that was held at Audio 916 years ago, and they were really proud of this car, and it had like an all hybrid build in it, and they were like, "Oh man, you got to hear this fucking thing. It's unreal." And I was like, and like he's talking to me, and we're sitting in there, and the music's playing, and I'm like, "Crank it up," and he's like, "Oh, this is, oh, thanks. Okay.
Cool.
I
Thanks.
was all
I'm
fuck. And yeah, I was like, I was like, man, I like the stock audio system in my F-150 is louder than this, and it doesn't sound quite as good, but it's definitely fucking louder, and I'm happy-ish with that. So I was like, for a, you know, $15,000-$20,000 custom audio system, I wanted to have a little bit of oomph, and I mean, it sounded pretty, but it wasn't near. And then so I realized it right in the middle of the demo, and I'm sitting in the car at Surf, and I'm like, you're the guy that was at the thing. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, it's all different now. And I was like, oh, cool. And I almost was like, oh, good. Like, fuck, but he had all Dyne audio in this one. And he had like the pillars came down, and they had like tweeters that were this big around that had like this, looked like a flux capacitor 3-way little guard over the tweeter. And then it had a big ass equal size mid. There was like a 4-inch mid and a 4-inch tweeter on those pillars. And then he had those.
Brad.
It was pretty
like ribbon,
badass.
like a ribbon style tweeter.
No, it was like a soft dome, big ass Dyne audio tweeter. It was like Dyne audio, like big as shit on that tweeter, and then right next to it on that 4-inch Dyne audio. It's like Dyne, huh? Cool. But it was fucking bad. It was a beautiful build. It sounded amazing. He had like 3-inch thick blocks of foam, like foam gushy pad on the floors of his car. Apparently that's a thing.
To stop the tactile feedback from your feet. Yeah.
I see.
I have that problem in my truck. So if you're whenever you hear my truck again, I'll give you some specific instructions on how to sit, and it involves putting your feet as far forward.
I need you to hold your feet like you drank some strawberry milk and you're uncomfortable, and you got to hold your shins and pull your toes back and
basically, yeah. No, all it is don't put your arm on the console, which I'm trying to fix, but the sub is in the console. Don't put your arm on the console. Put your feet as far forward as you can. And it makes a big difference. Like if you pull your feet back and then put your arm on the console, it'll take the bass from in front of you to like down to the bottom, like by the firewall. It's so weird how the tactile feedback affects how you're hearing things.
I mean, I totally understand that because it'll just be
Yep.
sitting in my car, and if you just move your leg one direction, you could get almost a completely different sound. It's
Yep. And same
weird.
thing in my truck. Like if I
Makes
ride my
sense.
arm like this and put it down, I'm like, shit, that sounds different. I hate SQ. SQ's hard.
Yeah, just make it so loud
If you
that it
could,
doesn't
if you
matter
could
what you
place your
do.
finger on the window roll down switch gently,
Just
Very
right.
and if you could put your right foot just right up against
And
that
if you
kick
lean
panel
just
and your
ever
left
so
foot,
slightly this way.
if you could sit on your left foot to get it out of the way, that'd be great. And
Yeah. Make sure the
put
back of your
your
head is
left hand
touching the
in your right
headrest.
pocket.
That's actually kind of funny. If you are serious about SQing, you have to tell the judge.
I mean, my feet would touch
For
the
the
ground; they just
proper
wouldn't touch the
experience.
pedals.
So
You
no,
need to do
seating
this.
is actually a very important thing in SQ, which I didn't I've been learning more about it, but like Jeffrey's my closest connection to it because he competes such a high level. He has like seat cushions for short people to sit on because he's also 6'3". So everything he does is seats all the way back and down. So whenever he lets people hear it, he'll scoot the seat forward and backward depending on height, kind of from a little bit, and then he'll sit them on cushions up to like 5 inches of cushions to
You know
put
what I
their
see in
head
my
where his
head
is.
for some reason is like some sort of like SQ bodysuit that they like almost like a fucking sleeping bag that they make the judge get in. And zip him all the way up and just have his head sticking out. Like, all right, now you
Tell
sit
me what
in
you
the
think.
chair, dude.
And then,
Okay,
and then
you
you
ready?
like put them in the car. You're like, here you go, bro. And you fucking slide them in, and they're all okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, this is fun.
So now everybody has to be judged in the same position. It just takes away.
Brad Knobloch could absolutely
You know what?
could do a hair trick with his Jeep.
That's rad. They really should. They should have the motherfuckers blindfolded too, and not know whose car they're getting in. You know what I mean?
Spin them in circles 30 times before
Yeah,
you get
exactly.
in as
And
well.
just like throw them in the fucking car and like light that shit off, and it's always the same. Like it's like some distorted voice. It's all fucking. You're gonna listen to this song now, and then that way it's not like, oh, this is my buddy and I pick his car more. Or they're like, oh, they climb in and they're like, I don't like this guy's gear. I don't believe in
That's
the
actually
Helix
to
processor.
be
So I'm
blindfolded.
gonna
I
knock him
think it's
points
probably a
down for
good
that.
idea.
I mean, that's
I like
definitely it's definitely a thing. Like, there's no way around it. And it's just human nature then there's zero
Well,
way to go around it.
Right.
What if you did blindfold somebody and they had somebody that like escorted them to each car?
So they
judges.
didn't.
Be the only way.
I'm sure it's been done. I mean, it had been tried at least once, but something similar. Who was it? It wasn't
Like,
Mark.
this smells like
Selfridge.
Drew's car.
Yeah.
Fuck Drew.
Yeah, fuck Drew. It smells like Red Bull in here. This has got to be Drew shit. Someone had a vehicle that was completely blacked out on the inside. I mean, you shut the door, blackness. And apparently judges were like not okay with it for the first. They said it took 10 to 15 minutes to get used to being complete darkness and to just listen to the stereo. And it made a huge difference. Like, everything seemed far more massive, space wise, but it was too hard to get over not being able to see. Apparently, that is one of the stories that Mark's told in the class before.
I mean, it makes sense. If you deprive the other senses,
I'm gonna rub one out.
100% chance. There's gonna be jizz. Sound dampening.
Especially, it sounds really good too. You're like, man, this thing is so good. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mind if I do. Hey, demo's over. Ah!
Oh God, what is that?
Dude, why is his dick out? Oh my God. No, fuck. How about you're at surf like midday on Sunday, and you climb into the vehicle to get your fucking blacked out demo, and you're in there for 20 minutes and your eyes adjust, and then all of a sudden you swing that fucking door open to 1:45 in the afternoon, fucking blistering sun. You're like, ah, like, it would be terrible.
So, Mike, whenever we get a demo of like an SPL vehicle, I mean, I've sat in quite a few. So normally, like, when I'm looking around, I'm just looking to see like how the vehicle's reacting to it more than anything. Just to see like what's making noise or what's moving. Like, what could you easily do to improve it? Like, oh, that's moving. You can stop that moving pretty easily. So like SPL stuff, I'm looking around just to gauge the vehicle more than anything. But also, yes, SQs.
There's definitely way more chasing things in SQ, I feel like, than SPL.
Small things like that. But I mean, SPL guys chase like that too. But those are the loud guys, like the loud guys who have that, like RP Patel cutting out thousands of dollars in work to gain a 10th. Same equivalent, just on a bigger
different
level.
Yeah, you're just like every little tiny rattle and every little this and that. It's pretty crazy.
RP's like, I bet I gain a 10th of a dB if I cut out all that work. Cut it.
Yeah, that's fucking straight commandment. But I guess when you're the loudest in the world, you got to keep doing it.
You must have an audio control DSP.
What?
He said, I turn the bass up so I can't hear the alt whine anymore.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy when you get into some demo cars, some people to give you demo, and their alt whine is like, whee! And you're like, okay, whatever, let's just run this shit. And they just go
like,
for it.
Man. Like, and then they have super tweeters.
Fucking, find that shit, please. Just find
or just disconnect
where the noise
tweeters.
is coming from. Stop using Pioneer radios, folks.
What the fuck? Jizz llama.
All right, that's the next shit on them shirt. Jizz llama.
Jizz llama.
If I could draw, I just had a really good logo pop in my head for Jizz llama, but I can't draw. So,
dude, isn't that the worst? Like, I get some great ideas in my head, but I'm like, I can't draw for shit. So this is a useless idea. How horrible,
dude! I feel like I have some really fucking cool ideas that if I could draw, I would just have some really cool shit. But I can't draw, and I can't explain to people what I want them to draw, so it never works.
Hey, Chris, ain't no reason to be paranoid about nothing. We're just here for the musics.
I need a Elon Musk Neuralink so I could just take a screenshot of my image in my head.
Never mind, no Jizz llama. Cut it. Never again.
Yeah.
Never again.
Robot Underground phrase a saddle.
Sadly.
The fuck is is that what that said? Sadly? Okay.
Well, that's what he meant to say was sadly.
Yeah.
But it said,
I was going to say, what is a phrase saddle? Am I behind times or what's going on?
All right. Boom.
Yeah. What is this thing? What is this? I didn't see anything.
It is an amperage meter. So you got that goes up to 8 inputs, 8 outputs, and it will display total amperage flow through it.
But what do you need
now?
That for?
8 inputs and 8 outputs. Are they individual?
No, it's all one big.
Okay.
One big unit.
Right.
Yep, and apparently can do up to 999 amps. So I mean, it's way up there.
But what is the use of this?
So you can put it in between your alternators and your battery to track alternator, how much current your alternators are putting out, or between your batteries and your amplifiers to track how much power your amplifiers are pulling. Like I'm gonna
so it's basically so you could see another number.
Basically, yep.
It's not doing anything. I mean, it's like, yeah, okay. I get it.
Yeah, trust
it's
me.
like
if we installed this in the Raiden, I'd know when the alternators are fucking heat soaked for sure. Because I'd be like, oh look, I only got fucking 140 amps coming out of these alts. Where when they're cool, motherfucker just keeps on chooching along and no voltage issue of any kind. And it's like no biggie, but
it actually would be cool if it could sense each post, because then you would know if like one alt is not working anymore.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not
that should happen.
They're not prohibitively expensive. I mean, you could do one per alt.
How much is that?
I think it's $150.
Oh shit, for sure. One for each alt.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you have like my Tahoe billet 400s. I mean, they're retailing those things like $900 or something like that. What's another $150?
It doesn't have fusing, right? It's not internally fused.
Nope. It's I'm sure it's some big shunt, 1,000 amp shunt or whatever it is, or probably higher than that.
If they could do something like that had fusing, and then instead of running big fuse blocks, you'd run just that. That'd be pretty dope.
But I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do at least one on the Tahoe because I have 1,200 amps of alternator, but a GM belt won't support 1,200 amps, so I don't fear going over this thing's ability to read current. So I'm gonna put one on the Tahoe, see how it does, and then we're gonna put some in the Nitro. probably one per row of amplifiers, just to track rows of amps.
So this is basically an 8-position clamp meter for amperage.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Basically, an 8-position
Instead
DC
of clamping
clamp.
one wire, you get to see what your whole system's doing at once.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and I'm gonna work with. I messaged Ed already. I'm gonna get him to integrate this into the new Tahoe panel for me, so it can just be.
You could also see how much current your amps are drawing. You could have one at the amp.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you could have all
that's what we're gonna do
making its way
Tahoe.
to the batteries, and you could have this going into each. I mean, as long as you don't have an amp that's drawing more than 1,000 amps current. I wonder how much loss you would have on the other side of that thing, if it'd be much of anything. But
I mean, unless you're using this as like distribution, I don't really see a point for it.
Give me 1 second.
Personally, but
if by a bit unique you mean Patrick Chandler of Robot Underground is a pedophile, then yes, he's a bit unique. A self-admitted pedophile at that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, don't watch that guy.
No, but I mean, I think we're monitoring too many things in cars, but I like data,
but you're
so I'm cool with it. I like it.
Is almost it's something we almost never monitor unless we just want to check how many amps we're pulling. I mean, I get it. I think it's cool, but I think if you're gonna put this in there, you might as well use it as distribution as well. So it's.
No, I mean, yeah, you for sure could. Yeah, you could do like 4 inputs, all 8 outputs.
It'd be cool if they sold like the system that you could hook up to like almost any set of bus bars. That'd be fucking dope.
That would be pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna put one on the Tahoe, track the front alternators and see what they're doing. Can't hurt. And then the same thing with the nitro. We're gonna put probably one on the front to back for the alternators, and then one per stack of amplifiers. We're gonna have 2 stacks, so. Be pretty cool. I think.
wonder if that's a problem. I wonder if that's something they could do. If they can make, like how they have the temperature sensors and all that stuff. If they could make something that would go into the positive and negative of a big set of bus bars, like I have, or any of you guys have, that would just
you would just need a big shunt. So a shunt is like just a giant current pass through. I learned about them mostly for solar because you can track power, like how much power has flown through it. So like say you have a specific amount of power in your solar battery, the shunt from like Victron or whoever will tell you how much amperage or amp hours you've pulled out of your battery.
Gotcha.
Now what would be cool if they did 2 of these, an input from the alternators to batteries and one from batteries to amplifiers, you could link them together and it could tell you how much more current you've pulled out than put in. That would be
you can see how efficient you really are.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Be like, okay, you're pulling 2,000 amps, but you're only putting in 800. Over the course of last hour, you have a negative loss, a net loss of 800 amp hours or something. I don't know.
Your lithiums are like, it's like, dude. I mean, can you fucking not with the bass knob for a minute?
That's basically how I was at Slam last year. I had an issue when I had the circuit breakers. They had finally just had enough of the hot cold swings and they were very sensitive to current. I could only run one alternator at a time for all of Slam 2021. So I ended up melting the solder out of one of them, and we ended up fixing it. Like John fixed it that night. But yeah, the batteries were not happy.
That comment reminds me of that picture you sent, Bobby, to the group.
Yes. Yeah, we can share that in a moment. Somebody asked me, where did that one go? What are your thoughts on big bass in vintage cars? I mean,
hey, well, what's your definition?
Let's say if I had my dream car, right? I had one of my dream cars. I had a 63 split window vet, and I was like, I'm definitely gonna put some beat in here. And then I was like, and I put 2 of my fucking Relentless 12s in it on my 5700, and all of a sudden I was fucking cracking and ripping fiberglass. I'd be like, shit. All right. Gonna fix that shit, and I'm gonna go ahead and run 2 8s. But if it was somebody else's and they didn't give a fuck, that's okay.
Or if it's just like a
You know what I
junk, if it's a junker car too, you know, it's the junkyard fucking old car. Go for it.
Oh, yeah,
If
yeah,
it's
for
something that's
sure.
worth any money,
I'm a little bit cringe,
I
but if
would,
somebody doesn't
yeah,
mind destroying their shit, go ahead. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah.
you know, every once in a while, I'm a little bit like, damn, if that was mine, I wouldn't fuck that thing up like that. But it's not, so it's none of my goddamn business. So they can destroy their amazing shit if they want. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Um,
not
Yeah.
me.
Just like your
yeah,
boy
but
with his
I
Tesla.
wouldn't likely do that if I had one of my, you know, and there's a kind of a correlation with this, but I was reminded of like a memory thing on Facebook recently, and we had this ground zero shallow mount subwoofer, and and it was like a really cool, almost greatly engineered woofer, but this motherfucker had a plastic former. Yeah. Yep.
That sounds like a recipe for a disaster.
So
Yeah.
they performed pretty well until you got them kind of hot one time, and then it was
And then
over.
it's like,
And so I had bought like I bought 4 each of the 10s and 4 of the 12s.
Were they wet
And
sounds by chance?
no, they were
Okay.
ground zero.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And I had put 2 of the 10s in a customer's truck, and I blew them before the customer came to pick his truck up. And I was like, oh, I just got really carried away on the bass knob, and I was out of the truck, and I was cleaning up the shop, and I must, and I just put new subs in it, and the customer blew the subs up like 3 days later, and I was like, And he came in, he's like, dude, I'm really sorry, and if I got to buy new ones, and I was like, God, that just doesn't seem right. And then I cut one of them open and ripped it apart, and I was like, this former is fucking plastic.
Yeah.
I was like, this is an engineering failure. This
why
is
would
not
that
your
even be a
fault.
thing?
I ended up building the customer an all new box because I couldn't get any other shallow mount 10s to work. This is the first time I built a forward facing box in a underseat configuration of truck. And it was so much goddamn better than the downfire that now here we are, right? So anyway, I had one of these things sitting around. I had the last of the 12s. I had one of them. And I had this 4th order bandpass box that I built for a different 12. And me and Colt screwed this thing into that box. We were going to throw a bunch of shit away. And he was like, we should sell the sub. And I said, if I sold that to anybody, if I gave that to somebody and they built a box for it, I would feel bad because they wasted their time because it's going to melt as soon as they use it at all. So I was like, let's plug it in. And so we bolted it into this box that we were going to throw in the dumpster anyway. And the guys, Colt and his buddy, whatever his fucking name is, when we plugged that shit in, and they were doing like a live feed, and
did you wall socket it or plug it into?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we plugged it into the wall, and
hell yeah.
And it played for a moment, and then it smoke and melted, and a little bit of fire came off of it, and everything. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And there were like 3 guys super fucking pissed off. You fucking God, you guys are pieces of shit. And I'm like, motherfucker, that's mine.
Yeah.
Do y'all remember the video I did showering?
I paid for that shit. If I want to throw my money away, that's fine with me. He doesn't even need to know any of the backstory of why I'd be ashamed of myself if I gave that sub to somebody and they spent the time to build a box. That engineering failure.
Yep.
So when I say if some guy had a 63 split window Corvette and he had walled it off with 215s and he was ripping fiberglass all over the place, I might be like, damn, nice build. I'd be wiping tears, but I'd be like, but I wouldn't be mad at him. I'd be like, damn, I wish I.
Then he has Gately subs and Gately amps. You're like, man, it's a really nice build. Please, stuff you got there, dude. So. Do y'all remember that TikTok I made? It was like it used like one of the sad Eminem songs. I was in the shower, like I was
Yes.
getting rained on with the
Yeah.
ZV5 and a 200.4. People were like, "Oh, that equipment, blah blah blah. I'm sure it doesn't work." That was all functional equipment, every bit of it. That stuff
Probably
still works. That stuff is in
Yeah.
the Tahoe right now.
Just let it
That
dry out. We're
Subwoofers
good.
are extremely water resistant. Amplifiers not typically, but if you soaked it and then it actually dried all the way out, it's probably fine.
And that's what I did. So like, it got really wet, but it hadn't seen power in months, so there was nothing left in it.
Right.
I left it inside to dry, and it's actually it is also in the Tahoe right now, and it works.
Cool.
We had a bunch of stuff during the 2016 flood that flooded that still works. Like the Helix DSP and the Nitro was underwater for like a day and a half. Nick went and got it, cleaned the board up, soaked it in like a bucket of alcohol, dried it in the oven at like 100 degrees or something. It's still going.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's like no matter what you do, the more attention you get, you're gonna find people that want to be mad about something, right? So, there was a comment on Steve Mead's post about dynoing our 5700. I asked the manufacturer, the overseas manufacturer in Korea, what does it do at 12 volts? 12 volts, 5,700 watts. Cool. We're going to call it a 5,700. At 14.4, it makes 7,100 plus watts. And if you're talking 16 volts, we're 8,000 watts. I don't have 16 volts. Steve has 16 volts. But the guy's like, oh man, and marketing at its finest and blah, 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 blah. And like goes on. And I'm like,
Chill, bro.
What if I said it was a 7,100?
But if you're doing the opposite of what most of these other shitty amp companies like Boss and whatever do, where they say 5K and it does 1,000. You're doing the opposite. You're saying it's a 5,700 watt and you're giving the person 7K.
I remember
they should
whenever
be fucking happy, not pissed off.
I remember whenever that first started. I think Sundown was the first people to catch hell for it, like severely underrating an amplifier. People are like,
well, it's not underrating it. It's just rating it realistically. Hey, you know what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
High voltage dropped down to about 12 volts. So when
most
I'm
people
using
do
it, I'm going to get 5,700 watts out of it.
That's one thing that the basshead community still needs to work on, is that, yes, a lot of us run high voltage, but 99% of the audio market does not. And they don't
also, one other thing like about voltage is people need to not look at that number and think if it's below a certain number, I'm either doing something wrong or it's not good. Like if your voltage says 14 volts and it's loud, and your shit says 12 volts and it's just as loud or louder, there's nothing wrong with that. The dude that has a 14 volt hold is not doing anything any better. I mean, your amps are meant to work at 12 volts, sometimes better at 12 volts. And
and what goes right along with that is the guys that are like, oh, dude, I got my 5K and I'm only clamping 2,800 watts out of it. And you're like, I'm like, oh, are you trying to reach a certain goal? Are you competing? And they're like, no, I just want to get all the power out of my amp. Like, is it loud? Does it sound good? What do you like? Yeah, it's super. It's fucking cramps. It's amazing. Then what the fuck is the problem? You have box rise. What are you wired to? 1 ohm. And you're rising to just over 2? Sounds great. It's probably fine. Sometimes you have a 5x box rise and they sound great too. And you're gonna get barely any power out of your amp, but that's where some magical efficiency is happening, and you get bandwidth and things sound smooth.
I got a whole 0.4 higher. Okay, you're gonna get what, an extra 100 watts? You're not gonna hear it.
You're never gonna hear that shit.
You can't hear that. It's physically impossible for you to hear that.
I would say, like, look at your amp's usable voltage range and stay like a volt or two above the bottom, and you could get as close to the max, I guess.
A volt above the bottom. Oh, the new Warhorse works to 6.
Well, not those.
I'm good to 8 volts.
Most of these Korean amps, I think, are. We'll say like 10
your fucking
volts.
lithium at 8 volts and see how that motherfucker feels about it.
Speaking of kicker, We could talk about the thing.
Talk
We
about
talked
the
about
thing.
it last week. We talked about it last week.
Did we?
Was there something? Yeah, well, we said that we were on in the group now. Yeah, remember? Yeah. See, you don't have a good
Yeah, you
memory.
did. Y'all are in a fucking cool guy club that I'm not in.
Yeah.
Yep. I vaguely remember that. It's been a long little bit.
Yeah.
It's been a long little bit.
But
we started cutting the nitro part.
Saw that.
Yeah, that
I
kind of
gotta
hurt my
really
feelings a
start.
little bit.
So that what I was talking to you about with the doors.
The doors.
The
Because I
doors.
do want to get my doors going soon. I'm going to clean my garage this week. But Drew,
I'm not cleaning your fucking garage. That shit's a
You're
pain.
not doing anything. I will clean it. It looks that way just because there's stuff on top of stuff. It'll be clean in a day. You'd be like,
It looks really messy and stacked up with shit because it's all messy and stacked up with shit.
Yeah. Well, I'm a one-man crew. I work till I'm dead tired, and then I'm done. I don't take a half hour to clean every day. I don't own a shop.
Be way better.
Okay. When I start renting my own little shop, I'll do that. But yeah, I want to do, Drew. I think it'll look cool if we did like 7 and 7, then 9 and 9, and then do the 2 9s on top of those 2 7s, and then the 2 7s on top of the 9. So it creates like a rectangle. You know what I mean?
I hate
7
it
7 9 9. Why? Why do you hate it?
because they're different sizes.
I know, but like if I do the 8 9s, it's so it leaves me like no room to.
Yeah. Let me see how much the
but
size difference really
small,
is.
but then it leaves me all this room on the sides. Then it's like I want to fill the door out as much as possible, and the 8 9s puts me like almost no meat to build that perimeter I need to build.
I got some meat for you.
I'm sure you do. It's probably like this.
All right, so the 9s are 9
inches. They're 9 inches exactly.
The 7 is 7.
7 inches.
That makes sense. Well,
yeah, so it'd be 32 inches instead of 36.
I like the idea of the 7s because that would give Bobby more space to put sexiness between the speakers.
I don't have money for Bobby sexiness. I'm going for like super straightforward, super loud, simple clean.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Take your fucking hat off, man. Take your hat off. Take it off. Take it off.
Fuck you, Bobby.
Bobby,
knows
take your hat off.
Bobby, take your hat off.
He looks like Uncle Fester hella fucking bad today. It's awesome.
Yeah.
My man said you take your hat off, he will hook you up with the sexiness on your door.
Yeah, you get the sexiness. You gotta show us.
We already have a deal with that. You got spot on the wrap and maybe a couple more things here and there.
Well, SEMA, bro.
And SEMA, yeah.
You're not gonna get SEMA exposure, bro.
Exposure.
If you want to come back to SEMA, you better hook me up with some
And by hooking him up, he just means just do him and he'll pay you.
Yeah.
No, I just mean
that's the truth.
Yeah, I'll pay.
Well, I'm gonna render up the 7s just to see what it looks like anyway.
I already have 4 7s in the door right now. I know what it looks like. There's a gap this big between each speaker, and then like this big of gaps on the sides. It's like there should be 5 7s. I could probably do 10 7s in there.
Oh, that'd be sick as fuck.
It would be kind of sick as fuck, actually.
Versus 9,
Versus 8. No, that's not gonna work. No, because the 9s only had like a 1/16 of an inch between them, or like an 1/8 of an inch. It was super tight.
It's 5 times 7. It's an
well,
inch
the way
less.
that they're squares, we could like kind of stagger, overlap them, right? Like we could make the fucking mounting gasket of one land on the other.
No, actually, Steve
and have
may be
them
right.
kind of stacked, kind of angled in just a tiny bit.
We would gain an inch if we did 5 7s instead of 4 9s.
No. We would if we stacked the fucking mounting, right? If the right edge of this 9 landed on the fucking whole ass left edge of the one next to it, we'd gain like 3+ inches.
But then they literally be on top of each other.
Yeah, a little
bit.
Yeah,
so they would each one would.
We'd have a little tiny angle on them. That'd be some Gately sexiness shit, that wild ass shit that other people can't wrap their head around and be all bitching about. It'd be that good shit where people are like, what the fuck? That's stupid. Oh my God. Blah, blah, blah. That don't work because they're at an angle and it'll have a phase loading.
Drew, what if we put the tweeters all together versus on top of each set? Does it make a difference? Like if we have some room up top, we could do some really cool like Gately kickers, shitting on them, bassaholic, like
Quietly loud.
CNC pieces or something up top,
Working on it.
Since everybody's involved in the.
Are you done yet?
Almost. Actually,
so this is why I need to learn how to design on a computer.
Because these squares are a pain in the ass.
It's hard to make squares.
It's hard to. Yes, because I'm putting the exact radius of the speaker on there.
So while Drew's doing that, Bobby,
Scott Dilbeck, how about the guy being mad at Scott because Scott calls people stud or handsome?
Bro,
you guys see
what?
That?
Yes.
What?
Dude was like, "Oh, if you call your homeboy stud or handsome, you might as well just come out of the closet." Blah blah blah. He's like mad at Scott because Matt calls everybody stud or handsome and shit all the time.
I use stud. I've never really called another man handsome, though, I guess. But stud.
Gay.
Good.
You're gay for not doing it, bro. Nah.
So Bobby,
but Scott just jumped in. He's like, "I'll take all my clothes off for that shit."
All of them? I mean, fair.
Bobby, what's a quasi bi-dimensional third wave resonator? Can you explain?
It's actually Drew.
Drew
is a quasi bi-dimensional third wave resonator.
You should hear me after some Taco Bell.
He just draws himself.
Yeah, he actually resonates at 3 different tones. Like, like when you look at a fourth order and how it maps out, like it's a triple hump, and one of the humps is like upside down.
Look, Blake's got it. If you're not kissing the homies goodnight, like what are you even doing?
Yeah.
Like right on the mouth. I start making a habit of doing that shit. Like at shows, we see each other. What's up, bro? It's like right on the fucking mouth. People are like, "What the fuck? That was weird."
People are going to be very concerned. Our wives, especially.
We could start doing the kiss double cheek thing, like like we're.
Dude, I wonder why we haven't done that yet. I mean, come on.
That'd be funny. Growing up,
do the man train thing. Oh no.
all the guys did that for me growing up, which is kind of funny.
Did
I come from their family. No, did the
man train?
Cheek. I guess it's like a European thing, really. I don't know.
It's getting kind of suspect.
When you meet people, you kiss both sides of the cheek. I don't know. It's fucking weird.
It'd be all right. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. I need the internets. Here's the internets. That's not what I need. Man.
I call dudes babe and sweetie. Well, fuck. Okay.
I mean, whatever. Who said that?
Yeah, a lot of people calling each other boo. Hey, boo. That's been a thing.
Hey, baby.
For a long time.
Or BBY. BB. Hey, BB.
Well, maybe a girl.
I just don't.
Boo. I've never had a guy call me boo.
I got you, boo.
Fuck.
What are you doing, Drew? Are we waiting for you to design something? We're just talking the most. Not man tree, the man train.
I'm working on it.
He's fucking designing in live real time right now.
I mean,
this is what looks like Drew.
He's putting 9-inch squares next to each other.
7.
Seeing how wide it is.
7.
Because he can't go 18, 27, 36, and then 18, 18. And so it's an 18 by 36 inch rectangle. Did I finish?
He wants to see it. He wants to see it. Is what he's
seeing is believing, Bobby.
Can you imagine a rectangle that is
I went to
36 by 18 that's divided into 8 equal squares?
Bro,
this is another situation where
you're lucky
I see these door panels in my head, and I wish I could just send you the image out of my head and be like, look, we're done. Just build those.
It's coming. The Elon Musk Neuralink. It's coming.
I know, but my build's going to be done by then. Maybe.
I was about to say, you sure? I mean,
because
why are you saying no kissing?
I mean, at the rate Elon's burning his money, the Neuralink will never be a thing. How long do you think until Elon's broke?
I don't know. He's getting real weird right now.
He's getting real weird because as he said, he's selling a lot of his Tesla stock. like 30-40 billion dollars worth in the last little bit. I think his investors are calling his are basically like, hey, you need to come off some money because you've tanked Twitter's value.
I think it's just a lull before the storm.
I mean, is
This
that kind
guy-
of
he's-
like
there's
the
been many times-
Kraken? That was supposed to show up but didn't. Same thing but different.
The economy cracking? What do you mean?
No, the Kraken. The Trump thing.
no.
No one said the Kraken was coming.
No,
Or was
no,
that Q? I don't even know.
there's a lot of when you're in a position like he is, you got a lot of haters. So
You do got a lot of
you're
haters.
not doing everything perfectly or the way people want. You're going to take a lot of shit, and then.
So, Steve, why don't you drag up those funny images of that dude that was like annoyed that we wouldn't build him a double 12 box for the underseat of his truck. He showed me.
Oh, was this an actual customer?
Yeah, he sent us an email and was like,
Oh,
"Why
God.
can't you? I put these in my truck, and they're slapping
For real?
for real."
He's like, I bought this box off a fucking. Where do you buy? I mean, that's just a straight prefab, right? You could see it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you guys can see it or not. Yeah. So the subs are basically on the floor.
I guess so, or he leaves it
Or-
like that. I don't fucking know, man.
Or
I
or
just
is
know
this,
that Brett was like, "Hey, check this out. I got this from a customer recently."
This is his extra standoff, is what he built.
No customers.
I need another 3/4 inch to get off the ground. That's wild, dude. But
What
I'm not
happened? What are we
surprised.
doing now?
I'm trying to find the other picture. Here it is.
Look at that! Look at that screw
What-
right there.
What
What is that one doing? What is that one even doing right there?
He's like, oh, it started to split. Screw it back together.
Oh, how's Byron's build going?
Byron's build is over at Colt's house still. We're bringing that thing over to the shop in a week or so. We're just finished the Jeep Grand Cherokee. That thing is fucking amazing, and that send down deadening is the shit. And
I'm trying to tell people.
oh, dude, it's so good. It's so fucking good.
But
And
you
then
have to put- you have to put it on the way.
we should be wrapped up with the mega cab in about 2 weeks, but we're going to bring Byron's build in before the mega cab is complete. As soon as the mega cab is at a point where it's back together well enough where I can start driving it back and forth. I like to drive the customer's vehicles, especially on larger scale builds, especially when they're going to get shipped away somewhere for several days to make sure that nothing's going to fuck up. You know, sometimes they even take a long trip home and beat on the audio system and hit some bumps and see if anything's squeaking or rattling or anything like that to make sure that it's, awesome. So
Did you guys welded that cage to the vehicle as well?
yes, that too. Yes. Lots of bolted and welded and then it's got the hexagonal shape, the main structure down the center of the sides. We fastened plate down the sides of the actual truck and then welded supports between all of that. And then the same with the roof as well. And then the floor of the truck is bolted at several weld points or several fastening points on the floor. So it's fucking wild. It's
Gotcha.
super duper duper solid.
I'm gonna see some pictures of that.
Jim Brookman is machining a really beautiful triple or quad alt bracket for Byron's build now that we're really excited about.
Dude, he's making some badass ones. I don't know
that's
if the
so
one he
sexy.
posted
I'm like,
is the one that
holy
is for
shit.
Byron, but is it the one that's red?
Yeah.
That's chrome and red.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that the one that for Byron won't be red.
Okay, but it's like that.
Yeah.
You're not saying that's actually Byron.
No, that one shouldn't be Byron's unless somewhere along the way he decided he wanted red shit under the hood, even though we're doing all kinds of blue stuff otherwise. So
Yeah, so he
I'm gonna
did
share it. This shit's
borrow
dope.
the Kicker Bronco with that same epoxy stuff that I guess he's putting on the alternator bracket. I was like, bruh, I need that in my
Woo.
life.
look
Yeah.
at that shit.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
what he really needs to do is start doing that shit for hot rods, because those guys will spend $3,000, $5,000 easy for shit that isn't half as attractive as that.
I mean, the price he told me for the bars, like on the Kicker Bronco. Ugh, ugh.
God, it's beautiful, man.
What does that shit cost? What do those cost?
He said the bars on the Bronco would have been like $2,500.
How much would this
Okay.
set be?
Yeah, how much is that shit?
Wonder.
I mean, probably similar.
Wonder if it says on the post here at all. Not really. Just says I like red. I don't know if it. No, I don't think it'd be that much. But I don't know, man. Aluminum's fucking expensive. Like you said,
No, it's all about
the bars he
time.
made
That-
for Kicker are super complicated. That's probably why those would be so expensive.
Yeah.
But even my bars for my bank were on like basically sponsorship deal. Just cost of material was like $800. So
Drew, you and I need to spend a little bit of time with me.
that's
teaching
10 sevens.
you to design Infusion 360.
Yeah, I know Fusion can do some pretty stuff. That's
Well,
what
I mean is that everything that you did right there, it was like a fucking 2.5 minutes me designing Fusion.
Well, I messed up and had to go back and redo something.
But I mean, like we could whip through that shit like boom, boom, boom. But yeah,
The hardest
we'll
part
get you there.
was punching in each the radius for the first one, for the first mid, because I did that's the exact radius of the driver, like the radius on the curves. Those are the exact radiuses. I messed up the cutouts. So I had to go back and redo it.
So
it looks like
what I
right
did-
there, if we did that stack thing, Steve, that I was describing a moment ago, we did. If we did that with the sevens, I could probably fit 12 of the sevens.
Really?
Just at a glance of what Drew had right there.
That was with, let's see, there's 9/16 of an inch between each
Basically, we're
speaker.
just talking about.
And then
Because
if you
the
and then
perimeter-
how wide is the flange, Drew?
The actual flange of the speaker is 9/16.
Okay, so we would have an inch and an eighth between each one, 4 plus how much space is there at each end? 3.
Not 3/8.
Really? Okay. We can't fit 12.
If we just did the 10,
You can get
and
damn near
slightly
fit 12,
stacked-
but not.
No,
Huh?
if we did the 10 and stacked them, that would give me more flange area around the side, which I kind of need for stacking.
Oh
it.
yeah.
But
No, I hear you.
I think basically it's just going to be like 3. If we used 1 inch, it would just be like 3, I don't know, empty rectangles, and then that one piece baffle screwed on top. I mean, fairly simple, I would think, as far as like putting it together on my door. But yeah, I'm thinking something like that. Because these speakers aren't very deep; they're only like 3.5 inches or something like that. 3.25 inches deep.
Yeah, no,
So,
yeah, they're not
that's
very
pretty
deep
cool.
at all, really.
Yeah.
I got something coming real quick for you, Steve, just for you.
So let me ask you guys something.
Yes.
So with Kickers amps, the new Warhorse mid amp that they're going to come out with, power wise, it's 1,000 watts, and we see these huge builds with these big doors, people doing 50, 60, 70,000 watts
They're
on
not
the
using
doors.
hardly
I know they're
anything.
not using it, but what's the point of having all that if they're not using, like, do you think these doors will still be just as loud off of 3K per door versus some people that are running 15K per door, even though they're not I mean, what's the point of having 15K per door if you're not using it?
To say you have 15K per door.
Well,
So-
when you're like, dude, I got 15K on my door, and it's a Terra Amps fucking amp, and you're like, it was $71 more to get the 15K over the 12K, which was $26 more than the 8K, which was You know what I mean? You're like, you reach a
Yeah.
point where you're like, fuck it. I'm like, does it physically fit there? Yeah, biggest one I got. Fuck it.
Yeah. Maybe that's
Yeah.
another thing.
When
Like
do
people,
the Warhorse sub amps become available?
those are going to be. If I had to guess, I'd say third quarter of next year.
No, they're going to have to be available before Slam.
Well, maybe for us, but I don't know. I know that they said they're going to be after the subs, and the 15s are going to be pushing it for middle of next year. So I don't know. I don't know, puppy. Maybe they're fucking with us. Maybe it'll be earlier.
There you go, bud. There you go, bud.
13.
13.
How the fuck am I going to wire that?
You don't.
Well, if they're 8
one
ohm, if they're
unhooked
8
as a
ohm
spare.
speakers, right?
Yeah.
If you got 8 ohms, what's 8 divided by 13? It's fucking
8 divided by 13?
6, 7-ish.
Yeah. Okay. So all of them together to 1.7 loads? What are you trying to say?
To
Nah,
0.7.
You're gonna want to have
Strapped?
more channels than that.
13's a shit number, bud.
Yeah, it's a weird
Prime
number.
motherfucking number. I don't know what you're gonna do there. Maybe
What if
just
we did 12?
Maybe
And
12.
then we left the spot open, maybe 12 and then 6 tweeters, and then that gap
You know
could
what?
be like
You just put 13 on there and just don't hook one of them up.
That's what I'm saying. It's a
let
spare.
people go, this one's not working. This one's not working. And you're like, oh, I made it that way so that people would say that. Look, you could put 4 more tweeters, 6 tweeters, and
well, if we did 6
12
tweeters, and then that middle gap could be like all the logos, Gate Lead.
6 tweeters and 6 and 12 mids.
Yeah. That should be pretty loud.
I was kind of vibing with the idea of
how about no tweeters? 15 mids.
Fuck it, no mids.
All tweeters.
All tweeters. How about 84 tweeters? Just all fucking tweeters.
I play 1200 and up. What up?
I mean, that's all you're gonna play like 5K and up.
What the Explorer
Just
was
all,
doing, that almost killed me.
All fucking horns. Just all horns.
Dude, that sounds real horny. There you go, bud.
I could do a bunch of like
no,
man,
12 tweeters. Sorry, 12 tweeters.
Oh,
I
Lord.
meant 12 when I said 6.
Maybe the tweeters next to
pairs.
the speakers, then the back gap. I don't know. Whatever. We'll figure it out.
Actually, you know what? No. I've got this. I know what you're doing. And Bobby's just gonna have to figure it out. I don't know what to tell you.
You can do
12 tweeters.
No,
I tried to do 8. I was told it's too loud. So
too much is just enough.
Too much tweeter.
Too loud.
Well, not too loud, but too much tweeter. Everybody like
turn it down. Couldn't
even listen to it.
I mean, they're probably right, to be fair.
Yeah, they're probably right, but that's why you still.
Why you tell them, look, bro, if you can't keep up, you can't keep up. Sorry for you, bud.
So Drew, let's talk about some more funny box designs. What do you got? You got a particular design in mind that you think is either really cool or not?
I want to mess around with those base reflex 6 holders.
I think they're a lot of fun. They're really fucking cool.
That's something I want to mess with. And of course, we all know how I despise those quote 6.5 orders that people keep wanting to do that aren't really a thing.
Yeah, but you still want to build one, right?
I would rather not. Like at that point, I might as well build a 6.5 order with like scar subs. Like that's how bad I want to build it.
Well, I mean, you're gonna be destroying the motherfuckers. How about like who was the guy that had like 2 or 3 18s and 2 or 3 15s in the same box?
Oh, that's the dude out here. He's in Cali. Fuck, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. It sounded really good. It's 4 15s and then 2 18s in the front. But it was all inside the.
Yeah,
it wasn't 6.5. It was.
And they were sharing. Were they sharing the lower chamber as well?
All share chamber, yeah.
Interesting. What do you think of that, Drew?
I don't like it. There you
I mean,
go. All acrylic.
It needs 6 more tweeters.
Then you'd have to see all the shit in the back.
Then you would have to wire it nice. You're right.
Actually, those are so close together, you wouldn't even be able to see through the only acrylic you'd see is that very top pocket. Everything else would be all speaker.
I need to get a second monitor in here. I could be designing while we do this shit too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm done with
we
that.
put in an hour 40.
Like a 6.5 order is those 6 orders you see with front subs, like on the front of the loading wall where there shouldn't be subs. They'll put subs on there.
I've heard
I don't even know.
I've heard 2 vehicles that had that. Now, one of them was my friend James Hayes, and he had 3 18s in his 6th order, and he had 2 more 18s sitting, and he looked in the front of his lower half of his loading wall, and he could cut 2 more 18s on that thing, and he went, I'm going to see what it does. And he fucking cut it, and he gained a dB at peak. But he went from being wired at like 0.66 ohms to being wired at like 0.4 ohms.
So he like doubled power when he gained a dB. Flop. That didn't help much.
It gained him a dB at peak, but it wouldn't play lows as well as it had previously. And so eventually he took the 2 subs out. Now he wasn't blowing subs up when he did it, but I heard another guy and he had 12 10s and he had 9 of them were inside and 3 of them were on the front, and he was throwing bits of cone and shit on the floor. And he was like, oh, I'm going to build these 3. And I was like, why don't you just blank those 3 the fuck off and call it good? It'd be way better. Like, this is the second show that I've seen you at. And
it's the second time you've blown them all up.
Playing, and because your shit is in fragments. And, but otherwise.
Yeah,
I would say the James Hayes one was sort of as a success because he actually gained a dB on the meter and had his, 59 instead of 58 or whatever, wherever he was at. But otherwise, he ended up putting it back to 3.
Because
he was goofing around. I fucking tried it.
He would have gained more just from reconing a subs to a lower unload.
Isn't Raimondo's build like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's only a handful of people who have kept their 6.5 orders for more than a year, and he's one of them. Everybody else gets rid of them or cuts them out. Everyone.
Is his really that?
Yeah, I'm going to share it right now. It's maybe
it's kind of.
Yeah, his is 100% a lot different. His is more of like that
100%. 3 of them in the front, the rest of them
but there's no like front load. Like his is it looks more
his is really in a loading wall. There's not like a secondary port, but
I think his acts more like a ported box.
Yeah, it doesn't.
What kind of numbers does that thing even do?
I got no clue.
I have no idea either.
That's always been my thing with him. I've never seen a 6.5 order or whatever be louder or even as loud as like a traditional 6 or 4th would have been.
Oh, that's right. He put those little loading wall thingies in and made it more like you got to wonder. You're like, okay, what would it be like if you just blanked those off? He should test that. I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
You got to know,
I mean, it's a Jakar build that maybe has been designed or whatever to perform exactly how he wants that way. I don't know, but wouldn't hurt to close them off.
Folded flat wall.
Yeah, they call it a folded flat wall or a folded ported box. Bobby Mansfield's is not a 6.5 order. His is a 6th order with forward firing subs inside the enclosure. That's different. He doesn't have subs on the outside of the enclosure.
Folded flat wall. Where would the port be on that folded flat wall?
In the very back.
It's a fucking 6th order then.
There has to be higher order loading because of how they are shaped. There has to be. There's no way around it. Which one is that? Like Mondo's, it's considered a folded flat wall. Folded flat wall. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You have to be doing some real magic if subs are loaded differently in the same box. Yeah, let me tell you whose box doesn't work. Prices.
And I mean, that's really like a big flat panel with a non-port horned thing is what there's no engineering, like nobody engineered that box. They went, I'm gonna put them like this.
What you
See
gonna
how
do?
it goes.
Yeah.
But none of those subs and prices, Tahoe, or the ones in the back, they're not facing slightly backwards, are they?
No,
they're straight up.
They're straight up. No, I know Jacquard they posted pictures of one that had like rearward firing subs, like inside the enclosure. Yeah, a couple months ago. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to it.
The fish, is that the fishbowl one?
I don't think so.
Where it's like a big ported box sideways. It's like really fucking weird to look at. Hurts my ass.
There's that Trailblazer, James Bale's Trailblazer has like forward and side firing subs.
Yeah, no, the fishbowl one, I think the motors are like.
Oh yeah, he's the one with the nightshades like sticking out into the passenger cabin.
Yeah. You're like, you got the motors like right next to your head.
Oh, not in the right there. Like
no, you can't even. If you sit in the passenger side, you sit facing the back of the car, and the motors are here, and you're leaning on the dash.
Okay, yeah, they're like right in front of your face. Yeah,
it's way louder in the driver's seat.
That's weird too. I mean,
have you heard that?
Yeah, Bobby? It was that slam.
Both, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's crazy. So they talked about this on one of I don't know if it was Daniel's post or Jason DeClue's post or someone's post, but they were talking about how all these folded things and 6.5s are allowed. And I commented, I replied well, are they though? And went back and forth a little bit. And James Bales called me out for street. I said they're all allowed, for stock cabinet builds, but they're all extreme. So I mean, they're cool, they're loud, but they're not like impressively loud. And I knew that was going to upset people, and it did. So James called me out for Super Street X in base in DB drag, which is an extreme class. I'm like, that's the point, bud. That's the entire.
Yeah, if you build an extreme cabin, you better be doing 170s.
Yeah. If you build an extreme cabin and you ever talk about score, it better be doing. I don't think 70s is high enough because 70s are a stock cabin score.
Yeah.
Joe Price has proved it. Many people have proved it at this point. That's a stock cabin score. If you talk about competing or scores, that thing needs to be high. Like Clippo, 180s, Clippo. Now, if you're just building a demo rig and you don't care about score, great. Just don't talk about score. Don't talk about competing. I would have to look at it. I'll be honest, I don't remember. I don't remember what it looks like. Send me a picture real quick and we'll pull it up on stream.
Doesn't Brett's have just it's just 6th order, isn't it, Bobby? Didn't we see it not too long ago?
I don't remember what the structure is. I haven't actually seen any pictures of it or anything yet.
Well, hopefully I get a photo here in a momento. Let me see what I can do.
I'm gonna go grab a drink really quick. I will be right back.
Yeah, I'm purposely not drinking because I gotta go. No, okay. I think I got it. I don't know how completed this is, but I found a picture of it.
Yeah, like
there it is. Okay.
Yeah, if you're building extreme cabin demo vehicles,
to me that's just I guess it's important. The back. It's a 6 order. It's just a 6 order with some odd angles in it. It's not.
Yeah.
When I say 6.5, I mean like they're like these subs would be here.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're talking about. Like this is similar to Bobby Mansfield, just flipped on its side.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some interesting loading going on there, and I'm sure sometimes that's great,
Is that ported in the back?
Order. That doesn't change. That doesn't change the
port back here.
That doesn't turn it into one of those weird 6.5 things.
No, this is a 6 order that just has subs at different angles on the inside the enclosure. to me.
It would be pretty similar to like what the DD tank is, but just flipped on its side.
Yes,
There's no difference
which
there,
is
right?
how the old silver was that Jacquard
Old
built.
Silver, yeah.
Bobby Mansfield's van, like a bunch of them are kind of like this, just flipped the other way.
Old
Yeah.
Silver was nasty, dude. That thing
Old
got
Silver
down.
was
Still gets down.
I
That thing
remember
get
last
nasty.
time I heard it, I guess was the best. I don't know if it was louder or is louder now, but
It's Showdown last year.
yeah, dude, that
Yeah,
thing,
Showdown last year.
dude, he was putting it
Yeah,
on.
the 5 subs in it. The thing was, I think he ran in the lanes too. Was did like a 68 or 69 or something like that.
So yeah, Brett just sent me a prettier picture, like a more complete picture.
Gotcha.
Present, share, window. Yeah, to me, that's just a 6 order with that's just a regular 6 order that just has the subs at different planes. Which I don't agree with the different planes thing, but hey, it's obviously working in builds like DD tank and all that. Like for the low notes, it's obviously doing something. But then you get Greg Corbin proving that all on one plane works maybe better.
Yeah, single plane it's louder. All the loudest cars.
All forward firing single plane is the loudest layout. That's just it's been proven enough times.
I mean,
where it's not even
look at Chris Lee, how many different configurations he had before now. He's way louder than he's ever been. I mean, like a huge jump louder. And you just look back there and you're like, oh, look at that. Big old flat. He had them all every which ass direction and stacked in all crazy. And all of those builds were badass and solid as a rock. Sounded amazing. They were loud as a motherfucker. But now with just that plane in the back, that thing.
The first build he had, I mean, because with shitting on him, we've traveled so much. I've seen Chris's Lee van from the start, basically. Like the first one he had, the 2412s, or maybe been like 28. He had like the V, and then he may have had subs in the middle as well. I was like, dude, ditch those. It'll definitely be louder. Then he went just that. And just, every time I saw him, I was like, I think if you just keep ditching subs and eventually get down the one fucking wall, it's just going to keep getting louder. But he's not afraid to just rip shit out.
Hey,
yeah.
you take
that's
your DB drag
shit,
out of here.
So this is 615s for the Nitro. Is this what this is?
612s.
Oh, okay.
612s. It's the same cone area as 515s, like ZV5s.
Okay.
I did 12s because they'll be here sooner for one,
right?
And no one else is doing 12s on the competition group currently, so I was like, we'll be a little different, and it's more coil for music runs.
Right.
Could you not fit them like just 3 and 3? Did you have to do that shape to fit them, or
no? We're actually gonna, whenever the time comes, they're all gonna be just on the floor, just as low as they can go.
Okay.
Yeah,
just 3 and 3, same level, same.
Yep, just flat, as far down as they can go.
Yeah, why far down? Is there a reason?
Louder.
Is it?
Yeah, I've been picking up a whole bunch of stuff from a couple of loud guys. I mean, when I say loud, I mean like stock cabin, mid-70s, loud drag guys. Because I'm basically we're going to build it like a DB drag vehicle that just competes in other stuff. So, because if you notice, the DB drag vehicles are always far and away louder than everything else.
Yeah, I think if you're building for drag, it kind of correlates to everything else getting louder at the same time for the most part. I mean, except for when you maybe get to like Carlos and Greg's area where specifically trying to get louder in the kick, then you might have to do
Carlos is still, I mean, his is DB drag extreme legal, isn't it? It fits in drag extreme.
It does, but it's way louder in the kick.
Yeah, but
obviously, but his drop off is much greater than if he was competing in drag. I think it'd probably be closer to like what RP is, like a dB apart. Carlos is like, it's like a 5 or 6 dB difference. It's like really big.
It's because he's building specifically for same thing. We're gonna initially do all the testing like with the enclosure and vehicle for kick, just because that's where we're going to be competing initially. USAC, Mecca, and Base Wars, and headrest, and then we'll make the transition to drag in a year or two. Because I want to get my chops together before I go for anything in drag, because you got to bring it if you want to do something in drag. But
Yes,
the Nitro's been
12s.
at a winning level in USAC and Mecca for 5 years, 6 years. Like every year, I keep track like where the Nitro would have been in comparison to everything else in this class, and it would have many years done very well. In drag, it would have got its face drug on the concrete by like 9 dB every year, like bad 9 to 10 dB or more. It's a lot.
Do you know if any of the orgs have an extreme demo class? Extreme music class?
Not music. It's just play 20 hertz as loud as you can, if that's what you want to call it. Yeah, I'm not.
I'd like to be able to win something, I guess, with the Explorer, but I mean, it's just so built for demos that it has to be a class that's. I wonder if Base Wars might have something. Don't they have like a crowd loud or something
They
like
do
that?
crowd loud, yeah. It's 6 feet out the door. Actually, I helped someone compete in crowd loud over the weekend when I went to go pick up Nick's Volkswagen. I stopped by the show because there was one in Biloxi, which where Steven lives. I'm like, oh, I'm already here. Let me stop in and see what's up.
I wonder if I could compete in the what's the one that's outside the window in one of the major orgs? Is it ground pound? No,
yeah, Park and Pound.
Ground pound? Is that what it's
Park and
called?
Pound.
Park and pound.
Yeah.
I wonder if can you run extreme park and pound? Is that a thing? You have
I
to
don't
be
know.
modified something. I have to look into that shit.
That sounds like people getting on in a car.
Park and Pound? Absolutely. Yeah. The Nitro never did good on Park and Pound because you actually no, it won't work for you because you have to be out the passenger door.
That's fine. I can do that. I'll just unscrew the window. Just have the window open.
True. That was always the issue with the Nitro because it loaded off of the passenger door. So when I opened it, it would like we could roll the window up on the other side, shut the door, and it would do okay, but it was not happy with life. Oh, I do plan on competing bass box with the Nitro as well.
I'm curious to see what mine will do outside the window. I don't think it'll be very loud because it's like so contained. At least when we were playing at the showdown, it's like you don't even realize how loud it is until you physically have to get past the door opening.
Well,
it's
we can.
Wow, that's way louder than I thought it was.
We can modify the cabin to get pressure moving outwards. It's not too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to do bass
you put a little more power on everything.
Yeah, that too.
You know, I mean, I think it was very impressive how much output you had with
for a single amp, no loading wall, no window. I don't think.
I had the windows in. Everything was in. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's. I'm happy with the output, for sure.
There's way more coming. I wouldn't even.
Oh yeah, I can't. I don't want to push this anymore because I've been breaking too much shit lately, and I don't want to break anything else.
So you don't want to put 3 big blue amps on that shit, huh?
Yes, he does. He told me he does actually.
I
want to do bass race.
I mean, Sky High is a ways away, so between now and Sky High, there's a good chance I'll have 3 blue amps in there. So
I want to do bass race. That's where you maintain like a 49.9 or 59.9 on music sealed up. I want to try that one year. That seems very difficult. I'm down for it.
It's a lot more entertaining because you're operating the vehicle. You're not like you gotta like operate the vehicle. You're playing music and you're on the edge, and then there's like little like psychological shit you play with the person, and it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
It was crazy. Bass race is one of those things too where the top guys have been doing bass race for so long that they're operating the vehicle, but they kind of are at the same time. They already know what the hell it's going to do, and they could literally run it 5, 6, 7, 8 times back to back. Know exactly where to put it and do the exact number.
Oh, it's
so hard to beat
when they're trying to make it so that they tie, and the guy's trying to not let him tie, so he's like pulling it back, and the other guy knows how to chase him, and you're like, how the fuck does he even know that like you're in a different vehicle and that one's quieting down, and you're knowing that he's doing it, so you watch the number glow, and so they know they need to turn it down a lot to dump there. It's really pretty impressive to see them doing that.
Out of all when they do the live feeds for finals, that's probably, besides the extreme guys, that's the only other one I really watch. Because I like when they tie like 4 or 5 times and then they just throw out a random number. Like, okay, 137.2. You're like,
Yeah.
oh shit. Okay, now I really gotta
Oh yeah, turn the engine off and get out of the car. And you're like, oh shit. And they got the fucking head unit and they got their remote, or you know what I mean? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking cool to watch for sure.
Well,
Hi,
fellas.
boys.
Yeah.
Did our 2 hours.
Yep.
Just like
The
that.
welterweight class is 612s, 6 round 12s. I couldn't find anything on square 12s.
Goes
There's
on
a dis-
cone area. That'll be an
there-
interesting thing for you.
There's a distinction normally, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, but none of the subs nowadays are fucking what they say, right? So who cares?
No,
Yeah,
well,
you
but
can't.
no,
You couldn't
effective
do
cone
the
area is always less.
12s with like the DD oversized 12s, right?
Technically, you could, right? I mean, is the judge going to say you can't run the class because of that?
That'd be fucking cheating. I mean,
Well,
that'd be like,
sundown
yeah, if you
10s are
run down
11 and
10s,
like a
you're like,
half.
oh, I got nightshade 10s. Bitch, that is an 11 and a half.
Yeah,
Like-
that was something that Hank was. Of course, Hank was in the middle of that drama with the Farino. I think it was. It had a bunch of 10s in it, and they were like, "Oh, but they're 11." Yeah, but they're labeled as 10s.
Yeah, so I don't know how they really
Try putting
qualify
that
that.
motherfucker in a box that's designed for a 10.
Don't fit.
Yeah, and then like the DD ESP15, the cutout for an ESP15 is large enough to where a ZV5 basket will just slide through it without touching. It'll just whoop right through it.
Yeah, so I mean, unless you're out there measuring, I think most of these things pass at the competitions. So just start oversizing
I'm
your
looking
subs, dude.
forward to the
Bobby,
dramas.
you should just call your 12s 10s, your
I'm
15s 12s.
gonna call them 8s. Fuck it.
Yeah, dude, make some 18s.
It's a
Call them 8s.
relentless 8, and it measures 12 and 9/16 of an inch diameter. The cutout is
with a 9-inch motor.
No, it's the new relentless 18, but we called it an 8 because the 1 is silent.
Yeah, that's it.
The 1 is silent. It's an 8.
All right, you fuckers.
The relentless 1/8.
That's it, dude. That's it.
It's like when people call FI. Yeah.
Yeah, I called it FI for forever.
Even people that have been running it forever that live here that know it's not FI still say FI. I just like
I'm gonna call it FI forever.
Slap you.
And
good. Fee.
My man Steve Mead said that he would come on the show with us in the near future. So we're gonna have to sort out that, schedule a date for that in the near future. And so yeah, I wanted to make sure
I also have a guest request. John Robbie and I think it's Anthony from DD wanted to come on and talk about DD going to online sales. I guess there's been, some people butthurt about it. Just kind of wanted to, I guess they wanted to mull over.
I had a long conversation with one of my dealers that's also a DD dealer, and he like started off on a big ass huff. He's like, I can't believe this shit. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I'm like, what if their pricing is full retail, whether they're selling it online? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what if everybody that's allowed to sell it online is only allowed to sell it at full retail and they're not undercutting you at all? And he's like, would that cause any problem at all? And he's like, well, I guess. I'm like, you sell my product. Nobody's allowed to discount my product at all. That's why you'll never go online and find Gately Audio on some 30% fucking bullshit SEMA Bro sale or fucking it's Black Friday and Gately Audio is not that so that fucking dickheads can buy shit. No, fuck that shit. So he's like, I guess I didn't really think of that. I'm like, I am going to pick up DD as a line that I'm selling now for two reasons.
Because now you have it in stock.
Because it's going to be easy to sell. It's a great product. It works really well. And I don't have a bunch of shitty loser ass sales reps running around whoring out the product to every fucking shop that wants to, and making them have some massive buy-in of equipment to where they have to fucking whore it out to get it out of their goddamn shop. So
Well, also, I think it kind of gives the shops a slight advantage if you get that dude that calls. And it's like, well, I could order one online, it's gonna be here in 3 days, or I could just drive 10 minutes to your shop and get one
That's the issue. The
today
shops that
for
are
the
upset
same
about it
price.
are not willing to. A lot of the shops that are upset about it are not willing to put the money forward to be
To
stocking.
stock the stuff. Yeah. It would
Or
be a smart idea to
or
do that now, I
or
think.
they're old fuckers that have more gray in their beard than me that are remembering the early 2000s too
Whenever
well.
everything went online, yeah.
When everything went online, it was all hoard out. It was
Yep,
fucking
I remember.
ruined.
Well, I remember like the mid
Yeah.
2000s.
Yeah.
Early to mid 2000s,
Mhm.
you could find Rockford Power Series
that.
best product they fucking made at
Yep.
less than dealer cost online.
Yep, that was an issue. So I was at a Rockford dealer, and that was an issue that they were in the process of cracking down whenever I was there when I was a dealer, and that was an issue. Like people come in, oh, I can get the same sub for 40% less. I can't even buy 40% less. Where do I buy them from?
And they'd
Yeah.
show you. I'd be standing there with a person. I almost got my ass kicked by this big giant buff dude in my shop because he went online and found products comparable to the M class Memphis subs. And he's like, look, here's they got the MTX and they got this, and he had like 3 subs that were comparable power and coil and had all and man, this website had like incredible detail. They're like, this is the power handling, this is the coil, this is the ounce of the motor. They had all these details, and they're like, and these are all this, and and he searched Memphis Car Audio M Class 12, and it came up as like, here's these subs that we sell that are comparable to that.
Damn.
And
that website
I'm
was
selling him a sub for $259, and he's finding the MTX version of it that's almost the same according to what he's reading for $113. And I'm like, I don't even believe that that's real, because I can't buy that MTX sub for that fucking price. And I'm like, if I thought that was a good sub, I'd sell those. My distributor for MTX is right there. I'm ordering Memphis, and it has to come from fucking Memphis. I'm paying, you know what I mean? And I'm explaining this to the guy, and he was like all mad. And I don't need some fancy ass bullshit. And He was super duper pissed. I was like, let me just give you a motherfucking refund. And I gave him his money back, and he got super mad because, and this is, damn near 20 years ago, but he was fucking pissed. Oh, look, we got the sex find XYZ, bro.
Dude, and back in the day too, like the internet, I mean, half the stuff, like you said, you wouldn't even know if you were gonna fucking get it.
Oh,
you would find it for $130. You'd be like, God, the deal's so good. I'm just gonna buy 6 of them. If they don't show, they don't show. But if they showed up, I got them for fucking 25% of what they cost. Oh man, there's so many rip-off sites, and that's crazy.
Bobby, you don't do sales. I don't do sales. Nick Apicilla from Resonix, do sound deadening and like super high end stuff like that. He also says that no sales. My pricing is already a deal because you're not paying $1 billion for it, because I think it's the best. Well, shit, fair enough, dude. Fair enough.
No, fuck that shit. There's no, okay, let's say
I already can't keep up with demand. Why would I artificially inflate demand and be cheaper whenever I'm already selling more?
It's a psychological thing. It really is. Like, if you guys have noticed, you've been on Amazon lately. Did you notice how they just started implementing stuff with percentages off?
Oh, well, I use an add-on.
That's a psychological tool, man, to get you to buy shit, because you think.
Well, here's the thing: I'm aiming for a customer base that's not that stupid. That sounds arrogant as fuck, but I like people that are really fucking smart, because those are my favorite customers. When I get on the phone with a customer, and a lot of times these guys are more than capable of building their own shit, and they go, man, I used to build all my own beat. I fucking work real hard. I don't really have time for it.
Yep.
And if I'm gonna fucking buy something,
I want it to be the best.
I want it to be something that's beyond what I can reasonably do myself. So that's why I can't. And I get it. There's guys that are building boxes in their driveway or backyard or down the street or in the garage that do really nice shit. It's rare that any of them are doing anything that's on my level. It happens. There's some guys, they're fucking good.
absolutely some dudes who do some astounding work.
Right. But when you get them to do what I provide, right? It's usually it's one guy and it's a side gig he's doing on the side. His price is going to be similar to mine. He might have a longer wait list, or you're asking of something that I have far more experience with.
Mm-hmm. And Scott,
and they go, and they're like, I want a truck box, and there's guys that build some nice truck boxes, but it's going to be really challenging for one of them to do that. So
sales
there's no fucking reason for me to fucking discount. And if you ever see a discount on a Gately product, it's going to be an older piece that's getting replaced. Hey, you know what? We've got 4 of these Rev 13 of the
Rev 13 far too low for any of your boxes. I already know.
And look, we have Bobby. I'm curious if you were to say, let's say your amp's $2,000, right? And if you were to sell it for $2,100 on sale from $2,500, and you were to make $100 more per amp, would you like? I wonder if it would sell more, even though it was $100 more, because it showed you were getting $400 off.
Wait,
I mean,
how about this? Hold on.
Like,
how about
the
this?
Psychological, not necessarily the sales are bad.
You just sell for $2,500.
I know. No, I hear it. Yeah, right. Let's say hypothetically, I'm selling it. I sell a little bit more of them. I sell a little bit more. I sell the same amount for $100 more than I would have been selling them otherwise, based on what your hypothetical situation. But how about this? The people that would fall for the bullshit of from 25 down to 21.
You're talking about like
people that are dumb
everybody
enough
on the earth.
What's that?
For that. Basically,
no, I don't.
Everybody. Well,
I don't.
Okay, if I see something that's $4,000 and it's on sale for $3,500, I'm more inclined to just want to like the feelings of me thinking like, man, maybe I shouldn't buy it. It's like, fuck, it's $500 off right now. I could get it for $30. I'm gonna buy it.
That's if you know that it is normally $4,000.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, that's the whole reason why I think Amazon started doing this over the last 2 weeks.
Oh, side note, download the extension Keepa on your computer. It'll show you what the pricing has been for that product for its entire life, and you can track product like the price has always been.
Yeah. Anyway. I feel like
it's just a different sales tactic.
I would be more likely to deal with people that are dumber and more likely to cause more problems with my product.
I don't know. I mean, I'm smart with my money, I guess. I don't feel like I'm dumb because I look for sales, but I guess whatever.
No, I'm not saying you're dumb for looking for sales. All things being the same, I'll take the least expensive. But if I'm not comparing, and if I'm
you're just trying to get the most money for your product. But if the most money means that you sell it for 25%
the most money
off,
for my product, I'm trying to deal with the least amount of bullshit too.
Yeah, but the person who's going to buy a $3,000 product, most of those dumb guys are kind of gone already. And if they have $3,000 and they're dumb, they're buying it anyways. So
fair enough. And so, but Scott, what we're talking about, like, we're not talking about like you doing a sale on if the manufacturer says, hey, we're doing a sale, then you do a sale too. That makes sense. But you're not also like, you're not producing the amplifiers that you're selling. So like, you're not hand making them. So there's no like limitation to how many you can make, which is part of like,
but there is a limitation to how much bullshit I can deal with from the end user. And if I am filtering a little bit of stupidity with the way that my product is priced as to not have any manipulation of sale, right? If I'm not trying to manipulate anybody by saying normally it's this price and it's this now, and so you're getting a deal and you should buy it now, then I just go, this is what the price is. And if people that are a little more educated and a little more understanding and a little less impulsive, they're also a lot more likely to go, is my voltage right? Am I putting a proper load on these subs? Am I not shorting out my wires? Am I treating this
that
equipment
all makes sense for
appropriately?
sure.
Are they having a little more value in it? Also, there are also people that are so financially capable. They're like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it costs.
Well, there's those, the type of client you want is the person that is buying the product because it fits the exact needs they want, regardless of the price.
That's right.
So, yeah, I totally get it. I mean, it
that's
definitely
my point is
price is secondary, basically.
The price is kind of secondary. I mean, obviously, I made sure that I was purchasing the product that I know is similar to many other products that exist, and I put a little bit extra into all the stuff I had control of. I designed the heat sink and some of the choices I had with components inside of there, and I went on the higher side, and I tried to make sure that we were purchasing at an appropriate time and worked it all out, that I wasn't paying an incredible premium for the product, so I could give a competitive price to other high-end amplifiers on the market.
Right.
And
I meant like customer wise, you're
right.
getting customers where the price is a secondary thing. It's not the driving force of them buying a product.
Yes, I definitely don't want people that are like looking for the lowest price. That's not
right.
Those customers tend to be a lot more problematic. People, I mean, I get, there's a lot of guys that are in the car audio industry and I meet them at shows, and they're great people, and they're having to be very mindful about the money they spend on it. They don't have a big high paying job, so they have to be very careful about what products they choose. They don't have an exorbitant amount of money to just put into something because it might be a little bit better. But for the most part, most people that are being cheap are also being abusive, and some people that don't really have any business buying a $2,000 amplifier, they're going to have a little bit of buyer remorse just right out the gate. And then their homeboys are probably also people that can't afford that kind of shit either. Or even worse, they can't afford shit. So their homeboys are going to be fucking haters. They're going to be like, oh, you bought a big stupid blue amp because it's got a Gately shield on it. Ha ha, sucker. You suck this dick. Blah, 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 blah. And then they're going to be like, I should have bought a Scar 6K because it was half the price, and
it's for those 6,000 watts.
It's blah 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 blah, and
or an Orion 3K that does 40,000 watts.
Right? Yes, dynamic. Absolutely. The Orion 3K that makes 40,000 watts. So these, you shouldn't be spending shit anyway. If you're so financially strapped, it goes back to I mean, it's a simple, like it makes a correlation. Customer came in, is back when we used to tint windows, and he's like, hey, and I want to get my car tinted. And I said, okay, cool. It's $225 to tint the legal windows here in California, the B-pillar back. If you want to do the front roll-ups, that's not legal. It's it's $85 more. And he was like, oh, all I have is 150, man. And I was like, if all you have is 150, you should definitely not be getting your windows tinted at all. You should hold on to that fucking money.
Yeah.
and he's like, well, I don't mean. And I'm like, well, it's exactly what you said. It's
well, I got 30 G's in the bank, but for
but
tint,
all I had for what I planned for today. And then my answer to that is, it really is, then you can go fuck yourself, because I don't have interest in people's manipulative bullshit like that, right? So that's why I don't want to dish it out either. And I feel like the sales that are the always existing sale, that's manipulative bullshit. That's sucker ass shit.
That's cold.
The doing a massive sale is something that the doing frequent massive sales is, that really turns into, it's the always a sale. People are like, well, I'll just wait until those guys put their fancy boxes on sale again, because it's a matter of time. They do it every other fucking month at minimum. If it's not every month, through the holiday season, you can always get 20+% off on that shit. It's always there.
There's some stuff that I won't buy unless it's on sale because I know it's going to go
because
on
you
sale.
know it's going to be there, right? Because again, me too. All things being the same, I'll take the least expensive. I buy those Dixon flannels all the time. Every once in a while, one pops up that I'm like, I got to have that one. I'm buying a fucking flannel for $60. God damn it, whatever. But I had to have that one, and I know it's going to sell out because that motherfucker looks cool. But every once in a while, I look and I see that they have a whole bunch of new shit in the sales section, and it's $29 and $39, and I'm like, I'm gonna get that one and that one and that one and that one.
Yep.
And that works out great.
I do the same thing, because I'll jump on their site thinking I'm just gonna buy like just a flannel or two, and then you go to the sales section, it's like, oh, my cart's got 10 things in it now because every $29 flannel I added to my fucking cart. Because it's 29 instead of 49.
And then you got a whole ass load of laundry. You sit there for fucking an hour and 45 minutes unpacking the things and pulling all the little fucking clips and plastic and cardboard shits off. You throw all the shit in the wash.
I'm gonna have to get one of them flannels, bro. I don't think I have a single flannel.
It's kind of
crazy. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it.
They have a different tag and different sticker for every single flannel. I think it's fucking wild. Those guys, they spend a lot of money on their packaging for sure.
So that always on sale thing is why Down for Sound dropped Scar, because they were just always on sale for and the sale was within like within a few percent of what price is buying it for.
Imagine the fucking tech support nightmares you get with Scar because the product and its lack of engineering and the lack of knowledge of it that they have at Scar, and then the customer base that believes Scar is awesome when they read the nonsense online.
Yep.
And so the phone calls that they must have got at Down for Sound, and they're just like, hey man, like I know this thing is supposed to be the same thing as a ZV5, but my buddy's ZV5s are way louder. What's wrong?
And why is the X so much bigger? I don't get it. So whenever Price posted that they were looking to hire, hire people for customer service, whatever, I sent it. I'm in a little group chat with him. I messaged him and said, "All right, bro, you hiring me full time, advanced technical support. I don't want to talk to the customers first. I want to be third in line. $150K a year base. Let's go right now." He said, "No, bro, I don't get it. I feel like that's a deal. Advanced tech support available to anybody, to any of your customers who need it."
You fucking kill yourself.
You should offer it as a subscription for $5 a month.
That's not enough.
Yeah, but you do base. So $5 a month gets you one question. If you want to do $10 a month, you get 3 questions.
I ask him.
Think about it, dude. If you got 1,000 people with 20 hours a month, they never tell you. Well, I'm going to pay $20 a month.
I've had to be, unfortunately, I don't want to call it rude, but in the last couple months specifically, I've been very, look, bro, if you got all these questions, spend some money or conversation's over.
Here's my Cash App. It's bedtime. True. It's bedtime.
Hey, bedtime. It might be for her. She's old. She might want to go to bed.
All right. Well, it is bedtime for me. I am old. I'm 40. So 2 hours, 22 minutes.
Ooh, I'll be 31 soon.
You will.
3 days.
I'll be 41 soon. Yeah. Bobby, 50.
48 in a few months.
Okay.
Golly, dude.
Time flies. Okay.
Gentlemen.
So
I fucking love you guys. You handsome studs.
You are sexy.
Big smooches to you guys.
Oh, you fuckers.
All right.
See you next week.
Else,
are you
the rest of you guys go fix your fucking engine noise.
Go fix your
Be
wiring
nice
behind your pillars.
Tell your homeboys they're handsome and they're studs and all that shit.
Yeah,
nice
for sure.
People.
I want to touch on Bobby's subject there. If you have radio noise and you're watching this, go fucking figure it out, dude.
Come on, bro.
Fix that shit. Nobody wants to hear that. You don't even like
it.
It's
so hard
if
to
you have
fix
a PR
cars, bro.
If you have a PRV DSP, throw it in the dumpster. Go. Come on. How are you gonna have $100 DSP and $40,000 in amps?
Dude,
Why?
the crossover line driver ones that have like the fucking
The
they're
big
like I'm
knob
like
on the
that
front.
shit is from the fucking flea market in the 80s. I saw that same shit there, and now
Steve.
they have what?
Nah, Steve has a kicker one of them.
I got a KQ35. Yeah.
Fuck.
It's my line driver. All right, boys. Have a nice night.
Fellas.
See you next week.
I